Security agencies in Nepal intensify preparations for elections. 80,000 army personnel to be deployed. Nepal urges restraint and peaceful dialogue, calls on all parties to respect Venezuela's sovereignty amid rising tensions. Nepal and the US sign landmark cultural property pact. Deal curbs illicit trafficking and restricts import of Nepali artifacts without export permits. US withdraws from 66 international organizations, raising concerns over global influence and diplomacy. Violent clashes erupt across Iran as anti-government protests enter 11th day. Demonstrators demand freedom and toppling of Ayatollah Khamenei amid economic crisis. And ICC Women's T20 World Cup global qualifier fixtures announced. Nepal plays Thailand on 18th of January. Good evening, I'm Sarah Sapsana Marai and this is NTV World Prime Time News coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Across the globe, it's 1:15 p.m. in London, 10:15 p.m. in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. Nepali Army has stepped up preparations to support security for the House of Representatives elections scheduled for March 5th. According to Nepali Army spokesperson Brigadier General Rajaram Basnet, around 80,000 Army personnel will be mobilized under the Integrated Security Plan 2082, already endorsed by the government and approved by the President. Army deployment will begin a month ahead of the polls and will be carried out in 3 phases. The Army will take primary responsibility for the security of ballot paper printing, vital installations, airports and prisons in coordination with Nepal Police and Armed Police Force. During polling, the Army will remain in the 3rd security circle to ensure safety of voters, candidates and election staff. After voting, it will oversee the transport of ballot boxes and security of vote counting centres. Nepali Army says it is fully prepared to ensure peaceful, free and fair elections through close coordination with all security agencies in the country. Moving on, Nepal Police has opened applications for election police personnel ahead of the House of Representatives elections scheduled for 5th of March. Police Headquarters has announced 133,980 vacancies with applications to be submitted at all district police offices from January 9th to 15th. According to police spokesperson DIG Abhinarayan Kafli, eligible Nepali citizens aged 18 to 54 must be literate, physically and mentally fit and free from criminal or political affiliation. Selected personnel will be deployed for 40 days with pay and food allowance as per government norms. Nepal's Election Commission has sent letters to all 58 political parties that submitted closed lists for the proportional representation system of the House of Representatives, asking them to review and correct their submissions. The Commission took this step after finding that the list did not properly match the required names according to various groups or clusters which are mandated to make democracy inclusive, just and representative. Sabika Shrestha reports.
Nepal is holding the House of Representatives elections based on the proportional electoral system as enshrined in its constitution. This is the 3rd time Nepal is adhering to the system. The provision was mainly to ensure democracy is inclusive, fair and representative. However, even major political parties do not appear to be well versed in the proportional electoral system. Before the submission of closed lists, the Election Commission had oriented the political parties in this regard. Despite this, citing that the prescribed procedures were not followed, the Commission has written to all 58 parties that submitted closed lists for review. Among the parties that submitted close lists to the Commission, only 22 political parties included names covering the full 110 seats. According to the Proportional Representation Election Directive 2025, parties are required to submit a list containing a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 110 names. The Commission stated that it has sent letters even to parties that submitted less as per the numerical requirement, asking them to correct issues where the list did not comply with the rules. Based on the population data of the 2021 National Census, proportional representation must reflect population-based inclusion. As per the Proportional Representation Election Directive 2025, submitting more than 10 candidates, representation must include indigenous nationalities, Adivasi Janajati 28.7%, Khas Arya 31.2%, Thadu 6.6%, Dalit 13.8%, Madhesi 15.4%, and Muslim 4.4%. In all these groups, 50% women representation is mandatory. Additionally, at least 4.4% representation must be ensured from backward regions. The directive further states that if there is any decimal point in calculation, one additional woman candidate must be added. As a result, out of 110 seats, at least 57 women candidates must be included mandatorily. The Election Commission stated that letters were sent because parties failed to separate and allocate candidates according to their specified groups. The Election Commission stated that letters were sent because parties failed to separate and allocate candidates according to these specified groups. Political parties have been given time, January 11, to submit their revised list. Sabika Shrestha and Saluza Dahal with camera person Ram Thapa reporting for NTV World.
The government of Nepal has said it is closely monitoring the recent developments in Venezuela amid rising international tensions. Issuing an official statement, Nepal government has urged all parties to exercise maximum restraint and avoid actions that could escalate the situation further. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs stressed the importance of respecting, the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity and political independence as outlined in the United Nations Charter. Nepal has also emphasized that disputes should be resolved peacefully through dialogue, diplomacy and mutual understanding. We'll go for a short break here. More news coming up. Welcome back to NTV World Primetime News. Internal tensions within Nepal's Congress Party have escalated ahead of a planned special convention. Party General Secretaries Gagan Kumar Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma announced that the convention will be held in Kathmandu on January 10 and 11, despite the party president Sher Bahadur Dewa's faction calling separate youth and district leader gatherings on the same dates. The faction claims over 54% of delegates support the special convention, citing the party's constitution as justification. They have formed 18 subcommittees to organize the event and emphasized that the party will remain united. Meanwhile, the Dewa camp has urged delegates not to attend any unofficial activities, stating that such actions violate party rules. Analysts say the dispute shows no sign of compromise, with internal tensions likely to intensify before a resolution is reached. Meanwhile, Chief Secretary at Central Party Secretariat of the party, Krishna Prasad Paudel, has said only the Central Committee has the authority to call a convention, asking members not to join the unsanctioned meeting. Party remains divided over regular and special conventions, raising concerns about internal unity and potential impacts on national politics. Nepal government has taken 3 decisions in favor of those passing the Employment Permit System EPS exams for South Korea bound employment but who had not yet gained any opportunity for several reasons. The Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Security has decided to request the Korean government through diplomatic channel to extend validity of the current roster prepared through the EPS system for Korea. The ministry decided to approach the Korean government as the current limit of the roster has deprived those passing EPS exams but yet to obtain opportunity to go to South Korea for employment. It has also decided to take necessary diplomatic steps regarding the demand of individuals listed in the roster under EPS and increase the quota of Nepali workers going to Korea through the system. The government has also decided to form a task force to make recommendations to ensure transparency and fairness in matters such as sending personal details of individuals in the roster going to South Korea through the EPS system to employers. Spokesperson at the Ministry of Labour, Pitambar Ghimire, said that the ministry is making efforts to implement the ministerial decision taken on last January 2nd. Now, Nepal and the United States have signed a landmark cultural property agreement to protect Nepal's cultural heritage and curb illicit trafficking of artifacts. Signed in Kathmandu by U.S. Ambassador Dean R. Thompson and Joint Secretary at the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Dr. Suresh Shrestha, the deal restricts the import of certain Nepali archaeological and ethnological materials into the U.S. without official export certificates. The agreement covers archaeological items dating from 32,000 before Common Era to 1770 Common Era and ethnological materials from the 13th century to 1950 CE, including religious objects, manuscripts and architectural elements. Both sides said the pact reflects strong Nepal-US cooperation and shared responsibility to preserve heritage. It also supports Nepal's cultural tourism and follows the return of 198 stolen artifacts to Nepal from various countries, including the US, as of December 2025. Now, hundreds of kidney patients in Nepal's Butwal district have warned of street protests following a potential halt in dialysis services from January 15. Over 500 patients face life-threatening risks due to unpaid government funding. Hospital officials say delays in receiving the budget from the government have caused shortages in medicine and staff salaries, further threatening critical care. Butwal in southern Nepal faces kidney care crisis as dialysis services threaten shutdown. The crisis follows the announcement by Gautam Buddha Community Heart Hospital in Butwal to suspend the services starting mid-January. The hospital cites the non-receipt of government grants as the primary reason for impending shutdown. It has been stated that the government has failed to release nearly 180 million rupees, equivalent to $1.25 million, intended for the treatment of underprivileged citizens. Hospital official confirmed the severity of the situation, noting that while the hospital provided services worth over $1.25 million this year, the government has released only $179,110. A cultural training initiative aimed at preserving the ancient Newa civilization and its rich musical heritage has been successfully completed in Nepal. The program focused on traditional Newa musical instruments, particularly the dholak drum and the bamboo flute, bansuri, with the goal of passing this heritage on to younger generations and keeping traditional music alive within the community. The 6-month program was held in Ward Number 9 of Lalitpur Metropolitan City and involved 44 participants, including 12 dholak learners and 32 bansuri learners. The training concluded with a special cultural ceremony and a traditional music performance, highlighting the importance of safeguarding indigenous culture and intangible heritage for future generations. International news coming up next. For now, a short break. The United States has withdrawn its membership from 66 international organizations, including 31 linked to the UN and 35 other global bodies. According to U.S. officials, the move signed into effect by President Donald Trump was taken because these organizations allegedly acted against America's national interest, security, economic prosperity, and sovereignty. The organizations affected include those focused on climate change, immigration, labor rights, and good governance. Analysts say the withdrawal signals a declining U.S. influence in multilateral cooperation, leaving space for China and the European Union to take a leading role. Experts also warn that while short-term savings on membership fees and contributions may benefit American taxpayers, the long-term diplomatic and strategic costs could be significant. Residents of Minneapolis gather for a vigil near the site where a U.S. immigration officer killed a woman in her car. A U.S. immigration officer shot and killed an American woman on the streets of Minneapolis, leading to huge protests and outrage from local leaders who rejected White House claims she was a domestic terrorist. The woman, identified in local media as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, was hit at point-blank range as she apparently tried to drive away from agents who were crowding around her car, which they said was blocking their way. Footage of the incident shows a Max Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent fired 3 times into the Honda SUV, which then hurtles out of control and smashes into stationary vehicles as horrified onlookers hurl abuse at the federal officers. Her bloodied body is then seen slumped in the crashed vehicle. U.S. President Donald Trump's administrations moved quickly to claim Good had been trying to kill the agents, an assertion Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called, in his own word, bullshit, and urged ICE to get out of his city. Now, deposed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores were injured during a U.S. military incursion in the early hours of January 3rd to capture them, the Interior Ministry has said.
Golpe en el cuerpo. El hermano Nicolás una herida en una pierna. Afortunadamente están mejorando de esa dolencia, pero ahí están las consecuencias de un ataque artero. 100 personas.
Venezuela's interim leader Delcy Rodriguez has said U.S. military action that led to the ouster and capture of former President Nicolas Maduro has left a deep strain on bilateral relations, even as Caracas moves to resume oil trade with Washington. Despite years of hostility and a U.S. oil embargo imposed in 2019, state oil company PDVSA confirms it is negotiating crude sales to the United States, which Washington says it will control indefinitely. Attention has shifted to Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the world's largest, as tankers load crude near Lake Maracaibo, though operations face uncertainty from sanctions enforcement and recent U.S. seizures of vessels linked to a so-called ghost fleet used to bypass restrictions. The U.S., once Venezuela's main oil buyer, has said renewed engagement aims to ensure access for U.S. and Western companies, while analysts note the focus so far has been on energy rather than political reforms. U.S. President Donald Trump is discussing options including military action to take control of Greenland, the White House has said, upping tensions that Denmark warns could destroy the NATO alliance. Trump has stepped up his designs on the mineral-rich, self-governing Danish territory in the Arctic since the U.S. military seized Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro last weekend. White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt said that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority for Trump to deter U.S. adversaries like Russia and China. The Wall Street Journal reported Secretary of State Marco Rubio told lawmakers that Trump's preferred option is to buy Greenland from Denmark, adding the threats did not signal an imminent invasion. Denmark has warned any move to take Greenland by force would mean everything would stop, including NATO and 80 years of close transatlantic security links. Greenland is not for sale. It is not up for grabs, reiterated French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot after a meeting with his German, Polish and Indian counterparts. Now, there were violent clashes between anti-government protesters and security forces in several locations in Iran on Wednesday, as a wave of unrest sparked by the country's economic crisis continued for the 11th day. According to videos published by rights groups and social media, new protests took place at different points in the country, with the streets thronged with protesters in some cases. Another protest was reported in the upscale Shemiran district of Tehran, with protesters shouting "Death to the dictator" and "Freedom." Large numbers of protesters also took to the streets in Ali Godaz in western Iran, with people chanting slogans including "This is the year of blood" and "Saeed Ali will be toppled," in reference to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, according to footage broadcast by the Iran International Channel, which is based outside of the country. In a video released by the news agency Mehr after a cabinet meeting, Vice President Mohammad Zafar Gaimbana said Pezeshkian had ordered that no security measures be taken against the demonstrators. Well, going for a short break here again. More international news and sports update coming up next. Syrian forces are deployed amid fighting with Kurdish forces as night falls on Aleppo. Syria's government has demanded that Kurdish fighters leave the neighborhoods they control in the city, following clashes between the two sides, which have seen thousands of civilians flee. The violence comes as the two sides have so far failed to implement a March deal to merge the Kurds' semi-autonomous administration and military into Syria's new Islamist government. All units of the Chinese People's Liberation Army (PLA) Air Force conducted their first training in 2026 from Jan 4 to 6, focusing on multiple subjects to enhance tactics and real combat capabilities. At an airport in East China, several J-16 fighter jets from the PLA Eastern Theater Command took off in sequence to conduct confrontation training. Above the clouds, opposing red and blue forces continuously changed tactics as they engaged in intense air combat, highlighting long-range precision strikes and maritime air support. And an air unit from the Central Theater Command, flying several HCK bombers, tested their capabilities in low-altitude penetration and electromagnetic confrontation. Meanwhile, an air unit from the Northern Theater Command conducted a series of search and rescue trainings, as well as flights at low altitude and instrument flying under extreme weather conditions to enhance the force's all-time and all-domain search and rescue capabilities. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said the country will hold a Royal Commission inquiry into the mass shooting that killed 15 people at Bondi Beach in December.
To the Governor-General in an Executive Council meeting that will be held tomorrow, that a Royal Commission on Anti-Semitism and Social Cohesion be established. This was endorsed by a meeting of the Federal Cabinet today. I have asked that former High Court Justice, the Honourable Virginia Bell AC, to serve as the Commissioner.
Firefighters warned millions of Australians of catastrophic bushfire dangers on Thursday as they battled multiple blazes stoked by a heat wave blanketing the country. Temperatures are forecast to soar past 40 degrees Celsius in parts of southeast Australia, fueling some of the most dangerous bushfire conditions since the Black Summer blazes of 2019 and 2020. Country Fire Authority Chief Officer has said the fire danger rating in some parts of Victoria State would reach catastrophic. Emergency Management Commissioner said hot and dry winds would fan bushfires that were unpredictable, uncontrollable and fast-moving. Acting Victoria State Premier urged people to prepare evacuation plans. Firefighters are already trying to contain blazes dotted across the states of Victoria and New South Wales. Now, French farmers rolled into Paris on tractors Thursday in a show of dissent against an EU trade deal with South American bloc Mercosur. They fear will create unfair competition as the government warned against illegal protest actions. Dozens of tractors arrived before dawn and cruised through Paris, with some reaching the Eiffel Tower and others at the Arc de Triomphe in a protest organized by Rural Confederation Union. The deal would create the world's biggest free trade area and help the 27-nation EU to export more vehicles, machinery, wines and spirits to Latin America. But farmers fear being undercut by a flow of cheaper goods from agricultural giant Brazil and its neighbors. A government spokesperson on Thursday, however, warned against such illegal actions, saying French authorities would not stand by. Time now for a sports update. The match scheduled for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier set to be held in Nepal has been officially announced by the Cricket Association of Nepal. The group stage will begin on January 18 with all of Nepal's 4 matches played at Tribhuvan University Cricket Ground in Kirtipur. Nepal opens the tournament against Thailand, followed by matches against the Netherlands on 22nd January, Zimbabwe on the 24th and Scotland on 26th. A total of 10 teams will participate, with the top 3 teams from each group advancing to Super 6 stage. From the Super 6, the top 4 teams will earn a spot in next year's Women's T20 World Cup in England and Wales. Nepal's women cricketers will be aiming to make a strong impression on home soil in front of local fans. Now, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka accused tennis authorities of failing to put player welfare first over what she called an insane tennis season. Speaking at the year-opening Brisbane International, the Belarusian said she was prepared to be fined for missing mandatory tournaments in the months ahead.
The rules are quite tricky with mandatory events, but I'm still doing that. Like, I'm skipping a couple events in order to protect my body, because I struggled a lot last season, even though the results were really consistent. But some of the tournaments I were playing being completely sick, or I being really exhausted from overplaying. So this season we'll try to manage it a little bit better, even though if they're going to fine me by the end of the season.
The number of events in the tennis calendar has been a frequent complaint in recent months among the sport's biggest names. Men's world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz is another to have voiced concern about the amount of tennis he plays, although he has also signed up to feature in lucrative exhibition matches. He faces great rival Jannik Sinner in one such event on Saturday in South Korea, barely a week before the Australian Open. Before wrapping up, here's a look into the top stories once again. Nepal's security agencies intensify preparations for elections. 80,000 army personnel to be deployed. Nepal urges restraint and peaceful dialogue, calls on all parties to respect Venezuela's sovereignty amid rising tensions. Nepal and the US state sign landmark cultural property pact. Deal curbs illicit trafficking and restricts import of Nepali artifacts without export permits. US withdraws from 66 international organizations, raising concerns over global influence and diplomacy. Violent clashes erupt across Iran as anti-government protests enter 11th day. Demonstrators demand freedom and toppling of Ayatollah Khamenei amid economic crisis. And ICC Women's T20 World Cup global qualifier fixtures announced. Nepal plays Thailand on January 18. That is all for the moment. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanamarai. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Nepal is a country well known for the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, and the birthplace of Lord Buddha, the pioneer of peace. This is a country equally graced by the beauty of natural scenery and cultural riches. Unity in diversity, immense tolerance, and confluence of coexistence, Nepal is a country of its own uniqueness. Lord Buddha, the pioneer of non-violence, tolerance and peace, was born on the full moon day in Lumbini in 633 BC. Peace, compassion, mercy, tolerance and salvation are the perennial paths of Buddhism that lead or have been leading mankind to complete freedom and welfare of all humankind. Lord Buddha taught the world to engage more on spiritual contemplation following those paths. Buddhism has indeed become a new way to most sought peace and prosperity. Thus, Lumbini has been growing into a sacred destination not only for Buddhists but also for peace lovers and spiritual practitioners. The life story and its supporting remnants related to the childhood life of Prince Siddhartha Gautam can still be seen and heard in Kapilvastu. The sacred historical bits and pieces attached to King Suddhodana, the father of Lord Buddha, which are of archaeological significance, will speak of Kapilvastu as an open museum. The remnant of eastern gate of the compound of King Suddhodana's palace was the main gate to the premises. You can witness here the entrance gates in all 4 directions, and indeed countless remains lying on your left and right, and back and front, bearing historical significance. In ancient time, the area was even known as Kapilvastu as today it is, but later the place was also called Kilalakot. According to Buddhist books and literature, Devdaha in Rupanderi district was homeland of Lord Buddha's maternal uncle and father-in-law as well. The bricks used to build homes are still lying plenty scattered there, and to your wonder, some bricks even weigh 12 kilograms. There is another place called Kudan, which is within the district headquarters of Taulihawa. And legend has that here, King Suddhodana encountered his son Siddhartha for the first time after the latter was enlightened to Buddha. This place was also called Nigrodhara, which is now surrounded by the remnants of stupas. Similarly, this was the very place where Buddha's stepmother, Gautami Prajapati, handed monk's dress over to Lord Buddha. Likewise, Ram Gram in Nawalparasi district is the place where a stupa of Lord Buddha's cool bone was built after his parinirvana demise. Excavation is still undergoing in this place. Kapilvastu, Lumbini, Ram Gram and Devda are therefore indelible places highly attached to the life of Lord Buddha. Kapilvastu was the kingdom of Sakya, Lord Buddha's clan, whereas Ramgram and Devda were of Koliyas. And the two states were bordered by Rohini River, some 27 kilometers east. To Kapilvastu was Lumbini, which was at that time densely cocooned by sal and ashok trees and was popularly known as Sacred Garden. Buddhist tales say once when Buddha's mother Maya Devi was journeying to her parental home, Maya Devi, she experienced delivery symptoms. Gripping a branch of a tree, she gave birth to Prince Siddhartha. According to some old Buddhist literature, the birth of Prince Siddhartha bore several symptoms and well indicated that the newborn baby was not a common birth, but a birth of a dignified, spiritual, and an incarnate. Legend has that the newborn baby walked 7 steps far immediately after it was off mother's womb. Moreover, the new baby uttered the following revelations: I would be the first among the mortals to go beyond passing through this worldly web. This is my last birth. Rebirth never happens with me again. Prince Siddhartha lived an affluent life of 29 years at Kapilvastu Palace. But when he tried to penetrate and see close to the eternal truth of life, then he started contemplating on life. Why does a man become old? Why does he suffer from different diseases? Why does he die? These were the pertinent questions that haunted him most. Driven by divine spirit to find ultimate truth, he decided to renounce royal life. One night, he left his family, friends, and palace to seek salvation and eternal truth. Roaming several days, he reached Bodh Gaya of India, and there under a peepal tree, he had gone for meditation and became Buddha. He gave his first religious preaching in Sarnath in Varanasi, India. He talked about eternal truth, human duty, peace, and the path of salvation there, and earned a number of followers. Buddha underwent parinirvana, death, at the age of 80 in Kushinagar. Addressing his followers just before his parinirvana, Lord Buddha said, my devotees will visit and throng around the places where I took birth, where I was enlightened, where I first delivered my preaching, and where I got parinirvana. Buddham sharanam gacchami, dharmam sharanam gacchami, sangham sharanam gacchami. So, Lumbini, saturated by Lord Buddha's peace-loaded messages for over ages, has been the most sacred religious sites for many, if not only for Buddhists. Today, the Buddhists and the followers of Buddhism and peace lovers of the world over visit Lumbini to pay homage to Lord Buddha and feel and get familiar to his brainchild, peace. King Ashoka, a staunch supporter of Buddha, visited Lumbini in 249 BC and built a pillar quite near to Buddha's nativity site. The Ashoka pillar bears an inscription that says, "Buddha was born here." Lumbini is not only an attractive tourism hub today, but it's also a live state of historical and archaeological significance. To preserve Lumbini, the Government of Nepal and Japan Buddhist Association have jointly launched the excavation since 1992. Lumbini had undergone negligence of both government and non-government entities for centuries. Planned and coordinated effort began only in 1953. The United Nations appointed famous Japanese professor and engineer Kenjo Tange to make a master plan for the development of Lumbini. The Government of Nepal accepted the proposed master plan in 1978. To develop Lumbini according to the master plan, the Government of Nepal established Lumbini Development Fund in 1985. According to the master plan, Lumbini Development Region has been divided into 3 zones. In the meantime, several phases of development have also been adopted. In first zone comes Sacred Garden. Second, Zone of Stupas. And in third comes New Lumbini Village. It is expected that the Sacred Garden will create a kind of aura, ensuring peaceful ambience, natural serenity, and religious sacredness to its visitors, in which they can feel deep Lord Buddha's message of peace and compassion. The very core of Lumbini Garden is the nativity site of Buddha. The plain bas relief of Mayadevi, which is supposed to be about 17 to 1800 years old, and depicts the nativity scene has been put in the newly renovated temple. Near the temple lies Satya Kund, sacred pond, where Mayadevi was supposed to have taken bath before giving birth to Buddha. Zone of Stupas is another important feature of Lumbini Master Plan, within which territory countries, international associations and devotees of world over can build stupas of their own in dedication to Lord Buddha. Moreover, the zone of stupas has been divided into two. In the western part, the followers of Mahayana sect are building their stupas, whereas eastern part is dominated by Theravada sect. This zone of stupas has 41 geographic subdivisions in which various countries, organizations and devotees have been building chortains, monasteries and stupas respectively. With a view to carry study and research on Buddhism and its inherent philosophy, a cultural studies center has been set up in Lumbini. The study center has museum, library and archives in which you can find Buddhism-related books, literature, arts and other valuable materials. Similarly, Lumbini International Research Center has been set up, which provides materials and other needed support to researchers of other religion, philosophy and culture. There is also a library for those who want to study about peace and religion. Another major attraction of Lumbini is its eternal flame, which is placed in Shanti Kunj Peace Hour. The flame was ignited on the occasion of the International Peace Year in 1985. The flame can be considered as bold symbol to keep Lord Buddha's peace messages alive. Lumbini village is the exterior part of Lumbini Master Plan, where various facilities of lodging and fooding for the visitors are catered in depending on their capacities. There are a number of cheap and affordable rest houses to moderate ones and luxury hotels laced by all modern amenities. A peace stupa has been built in the northern side of Lumbini. It is the tallest stupa in the area. The story of the greatness of Lord Buddha's birthplace, Lumbini, is not an imagined story of a next world. Lumbini, in fact, is the most sacred place which can emanate peace, friendship, kindness, compassion, and feeling of coexistence to all people of all ages. This is a destination to inward peace, a holy place for enlightenment. Indeed, the sacredness of Lumbini existed in the past too. It is today too, and it will be tomorrow too.
music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
Welcome to Declassified Beyond the Brief. I'm Devendra Subedi. What is the importance of scientific research and academics in our day-to-day life? Do the breakthroughs and findings made by great scientists and researchers matter in everyday life of a common person like us? In this episode, we try to declassify the value of academics in life, history-making finding of a Nobel laureate, major challenges the world is facing, the cosmos, the universe, and much more. It is our honor and privilege to welcome Nobel laureate Professor Dr. Takaaki Kazita in the studios of Nepal Television and NTV World. Professor Kazita, welcome to NTV World.
Thank you.
You were the chief guest of the 51st convocation of one of the largest universities of the world, Trivandrum University. Now, how much do countries like Nepal contribute in the global ecosystem of physics, Professor?
Well, as far as I think, physics is truly a global effort. Therefore, I think Nepal is one of the important contributors to the development of physics.
So Nepal can play or has played, Professor, so far?
Well, I hope Nepal can play more significant role in the future.
Now, going back to the universities, Professor, how did the Japanese universities where you studied shaped your scientific journey up to the Nobel Prize and the research that you conducted?
Thank you for this question. When I was young, I think the Japanese national universities have a kind of academic freedom. I can spend all my time for the research. I think that kind of environment was very important to really produce important scientific result.
But in our part, we often talk about practical education. It should be more day-to-day use. This should come into, but that is the importance of research, isn't it, Professor? We should concentrate. And what about the investment in research?
Well, I think both fundamental research and research that can contribute to tomorrow's life are both important. So we have to support both sides.
If Nepal have to strengthen its higher education system, let's say, what lessons can it learn from Japan at this present time?
In the last 20 or so years, Japanese government tried to reduce the support to the Japanese national universities. Then the effect was clear. The number of papers or number of highly cited papers rapidly decreased. So I think the support from the government, support from all the people in the country is very important for the development of science.
Now we move on to one of the things that you mentioned in your Convocation Day speech, Professor Kazuta. You mentioned about some of the major issues the world is facing right now. Can you elaborate something more onto your speech?
Well, I think I had several points. First of all, I mentioned AI, and AI is a kind of new technology, and it seems AI is really going to be really important for our future, and therefore we have to think about the way how to use AI properly. Of course, there are other issues such as climate change. This is again a global issue. Therefore, we all have to work hard to stop the global warming.
How about the geopolitical tensions surrounding this world, Professor Kazuta?
Well, I don't want to go into too details about this issue, but well, compared with, say, 20 years ago, well, I am really feeling that our world is changing. I really like to have our world 20 years ago.
That was much better.
Much better, yes.
Will the global dynamics, Professor Kazuta, always be dictated by the countries who have a lot of spending in scientific research or the ones that have robust economy? Who do you think will dictate the global dynamics?
Certainly, nowadays, some countries try to control everything, but well, I think every country, every people are player in the world.
So it should be a collaborative world.
Yes.
If you said you can't comment much on that one, now I come to your topic, physics, Professor Kazuta. Will the nuclear threat or the race that we see in this world after the evolution of technologies like nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, will that ever end, or are we going to ever see an end to this one?
Difficult question. Well, certainly, as far as the energy is concerned, if we have enough renewable energy resources, I hope we can forget about the nuclear powers and so on. But for the moment, we are not yet that position. So therefore, we still have, in my opinion, we still have to think seriously what will be the best way for the future.
There are always pros and cons of every discovery, or whenever there's a new evolution. Should the ones that are a threat to humanity or the environment be, let's say, eliminated right from the initial phase, or they should carry on? Let's take the example of cloning. Right. Let's say now we have even reached up to human cloning. There's still a debate in that one. So such type of researches and experiments, should those things be promoted or should not be done at all?
Well, I'm certainly in a little bit conservative side. Well, nowadays, well, the things that science can do have expanded so much. Therefore, when we think about any application, we have to be very serious, and we need to have a significant discussion, and we need to have a consensus among the society.
So does that involve the scientific community only, or the common people as well?
I think we should involve the common people.
Now we move on to your specific research area, Professor Kazuta, that won you a Nobel Prize in 2015, physics, the cosmic rays and the neutrino oscillation. What is neutrino physics and how is it different from the particle physics?
Neutrino physics is part of particle physics, but well, we think now neutrino physics is important because about 25 years ago, people discovered neutrino oscillations that implies neutrinos have small mass. And small mass of neutrinos might be the window to study physics beyond the standard model of particle physics. Therefore, well, we are excited.
Let's say this is something, a standard ball pen. How small and deep is your research when you study the neutrino oscillation? How small is the particle? To what depth do you reach?
Well, in the standard scenario, neutrinos do not have the size. Therefore, I cannot say how small.
Exactly how small they are. But they are not visible to our eyes, are they?
No, it's not possible even for particle physics experiments. We cannot see neutrinos.
So, in simple terms, Professor Kazuta, neutrino oscillation, what is it and why it matters to common people like us?
Oh, okay. Well, neutrino oscillations are phenomena that neutrinos, while traveling in the vacuum or even in the matter, they change their type.
Yeah.
That is the neutrino oscillations, and this happens if neutrinos have small mass. Of course, even if neutrinos have small mass, it doesn't matter to our daily life.
It doesn't matter, but it does shape the future of humanity, isn't it?
Well, as a humanity, we would like to understand the secrets of the universe, and therefore we may contribute to expanding our knowledge.
How challenging was it, Professor Kazuta, to prove the neutrino oscillation theory experimentally?
Well, okay. When we discovered neutrino oscillations in 1998, well, people were not sure if really neutrinos oscillate. Therefore, we thought it's very important to convince neutrino physicists with a very clear data.
So with the experiment, you provided that data to your team and that did the research.
Yes, our team provided the clean data, yes.
I heard you say, Professor Kazita, my failed research, unsuccessful research, gave me a PhD. And the one that was successful earned you a Nobel Prize. You said somewhere this statement of yours. Can you explain on that one?
Yes, okay, thank you. Well, when I was a PhD student, I wanted to observe proton decays. I was unable to observe, but fortunately I got PhD.
For that particular research?
Yes, and well, even after PhD, I continued search for proton decays. Then, in some day, I noticed that the background events to the search for proton decays are not understood. That was neutrino interactions. Then I changed to this topic.
What does your discovery mean for humanity's or our, let's say, understanding of the matter and the cosmos?
Well, certainly, if we understand, for example, why neutrino mass is so small, it will certainly give us a better understanding of the fundamental theory of the particles, and these particle theories could help understand the universe better.
Is there any practical application of that in our day-to-day life?
No, I don't expect so.
Professor Kazita, you have spoken of super and hyper Kamiokande. You have already worked on that, going underneath the earth and then doing the experiment. Can you explain in simple terms to our viewers what exactly was that Kamiokande? Or you were even talking about the hyper Kamiokande now, which you want to work on.
Okay, thank you. Well, let me talk about the super Kamiokande experiment. It is a very large detector located in deep underground. It is located about 1,000 meter deep underground, and the size is about 40 meter in diameter and 40 meter high, and it contains 50,000 tons of 11 countries.
11 countries then. So you are doubling the number, and it's 8 times larger experiment. I would like to wish you all the best for your hyper Kamiokande right here, right now, Professor Kazita, and hopefully the findings will land you another Nobel Prize, maybe.
Thank you, but I'm not deeply involved in hyper Kamiokande.
All right, but you are the one who started this with the super one, and then hopefully that will be carried forward by the new generation of research.
Yes, I hope so.
How important is sustained investment in basic research or scientific breakthroughs in developing countries like Nepal, Professor?
Well, it's an important point. Well, from our experience, I can say the sustained support by the government is really important to carry out basic research. Well, it's not easy to produce important results in basic science, but well, in our case, government was very supportive, and we were able to produce important results over the past 30 years.
Any suggestion you have for developing countries like Nepal, where, as earlier I mentioned, we only talk about practical education, more day-to-day life applications, and why they should also spend in research and all this sort of stuff. Any suggestion you have, Professor?
Well, first of all, in order to develop science, academic freedom is important. So researchers can select whatever they would like to do. So that kind of freedom is very important, and sometimes their research cannot contribute to tomorrow's life. But if we think about the long history of humanity, the basic science in some cases, contribute significantly to humanities. Therefore, the support to basic science is very important even in Nepal.
Do you think Nobel-level discoveries or research or findings are possible from countries like Nepal or any other developing countries as well?
I think so. But, well, supporting basic science is really the key to get the fundamental research result.
You spoke about perseverance in your speech in the convocation day. How important is perseverance and patience?
Well, it's absolutely essential to be able to continue the research for a long time.
For example, once you did your research and you couldn't find the proton decaying thing and you earned your PhD, had you left it there, you would not have reached up to the findings that you have made there. But today, nowadays, youths or even people are very much result-oriented. They want immediate result. They want immediate success. What message you have for them?
I think it's important that researchers find important questions, and it may take long time to answer to these important questions. But if you think this question is important, you should persuade.
So keep working on, think about the long-term impact, do investment from the government side, and the young researchers do not look for immediate success.
That's right. And, well, I think nowadays young researchers have a very high pressure in order to get the next job. Therefore, it's very important that government support young researchers' permanent position.
How important is physics, Professor Kazita, to human existence itself, to humanity? Physics.
Well, it's a difficult question. Well, as humanity, we would like to understand the universe better, and we physicists can contribute to our better understanding of the universe. Maybe that's all we can do.
As I earlier asked, in that practical thing you said, our better understanding of our universe. We should understand our universe better. And maybe the researchers in future can take your learning and apply there. How should humanity balance this curiosity-driven science with immediate societal needs?
I think this is a very important question. And, well, certainly, as a physicist working on fundamental things, I really hope stronger support for fundamental research. But the balance between the fundamental research and the improvement of the tomorrow's life is always an issue. And I think we have to discuss as a community what will be the best way for the moment.
Information technology is evolving.
Yeah.
You spoke about AI earlier as well. Do you see it as a challenge, or will it complement human efficiency in the long term?
I think we have to, well, first of all, it is not possible to avoid the use of AI anymore. Then the question is, shall we simply use them without thinking anything?
Yeah.
That is the question. And I think, well, certainly we should use AI, but at the same time, we should not forget the importance of our thinking.
So it's not just the machines. We cannot avoid the use of technology and get the benefit out of it, but don't leave it alone, right?
Right.
Okay. Finally, we are reaching almost at the end of this conversation, Professor Kazita. What message would you like to share with young scientists in developing countries like Nepal?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for this question. Well, as I said, physics or science is a global effort. And if young people are interested in science, interested in understanding the nature, please do not hesitate to do research, to become scientists. Please do not hesitate to become scientists.
Final question, Professor Kazita. Say something about Nepal. This is your third time in Nepal. How do you like this country?
Oh, I like Nepal very much. Whenever I come to Nepal, I'm really excited. If I visit the old temple, I'm really inspired, and I find some similarities between Japanese culture and Nepal culture. So I'm always excited to come here.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your time, your precious time. We were really, really honored to have you in our studios of NTV World. Looking forward to your Hyper-Kamyokonde experiment, which will be a carry forward from what you have left. Thank you so much, Professor Kazita, for your time, for your thoughts. We are really honored to have you in the studios of NTV World. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was indeed an honor for the entire team of NTV World to have world-renowned researcher, physician, the Nobel laureate 2015, Professor Takaaki Kazita. In this episode of Declassified, we tried to explore the cosmos, the universe, the findings of Japanese Nobel Prize-winning physics professor Takaaki Kazita. I know for many of us, the findings of the research that Professor Takaaki Kazita made may not come to our day-to-day life, but the lesson from Professor is, to the scientists, to the researchers, do not hesitate to do research. Do not look for immediate fruits. And for the government, please do make sizable investment in research so that the future of humanity can be shaped in a better way and the world can be a better place for all. Thank you so much for your presence in this episode of Declassified. Until next time, from the entire crew, it's me, Devendra Subedi, saying bye-bye.
Culture and identity of a nation or community is deeply embedded in its craft and lifestyle. In this, specialized craft producers are major actors. Besides specialized skills and uniqueness, time adds value to such crafts. In this film, we explore two such specialized crafts, one in Kathmandu and the other in Niigata, that have played a significant role in elevating their respective national culture and identity in the world's fair. The capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is a spectacular blend of natural beauty and culture. Habitat to about 2.5 million people, the city holds a rich cultural history that dates back to the ancient times. The 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites it encompasses are evident to the fact. Swayambhunath, Bodhanath, Pashupatinath temple premises, Changunarayan temple area, as well as the 3 Darbar squares of Kathmandu, Patan and Bhaktapur enlisted in the UNESCO Cultural World Heritage Site are not only a glimpse of its civilization, but Nepalese treasured pride. The civilization of Kathmandu that lies 1400 meters above the sea level seemingly holds a close connection with copper products since time immemorial. Historical text has it that Kathmandu in ancient time was referred to as Nepal. Sanskrit lexicographers have a synonym of tamra or copper as Nepaliklam and Nepalam. Hence, the origin of the name Nepal is assumed to have been derived from the Sanskrit word copper. In Nepal, copper has been a basic raw material to a wide range of art and crafts, including in sculpture, architecture, deity and housewares making. Thus, it has over time been an integral part of Nepali civilization and lifestyle.
इस्वीको सुरुदेखि चाहिँ ताम्र को टुक्राहरूको व्यवहारबाट चाहिँ यसको चलनचल्ती भएको बुझिन्छ। त्यसपछि चाहिँ 6औं शताब्दीमा आएर चाहिँ यसबाट चाहिँ मुद्रा बनाउने चलन आयो। तिस्टुङको भटुवाल र पाल्चोक भन्ने 2 ठाउँमा अंशवर्माले राखेको अभिलेखमा चाहिँ यो ताम्रभाण्ड तामाका भाँडाहरू चाहिँ सरकारको स्वीकृति बिना बाहिर लानु हुँदैन भन्ने उल्लेख आएको छ। ह्वेनसाङ चाहिँ भारतमा आएर भारतबाट चाहिँ नेपाल भएर चाहिँ चीन फर्केको बुझिन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ 643-44 ईस्वी सम्बततिर आएको बुझिन्छ। त्यो जुन कैलाशकूट भवन छ त्यो कैलाशकूट भवन बारे ह्वेनसाङले एकदमै राम्रो चाहिँ उल्लेख गरेको छ कि यो 7 तलाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ छाना चाहिँ तामाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ नेपालमा चाहिँ तामाको पैसा चाहिँ चल्तीमा छ। यहाँका मानिसहरूले भाँडाकुँडाहरू तामाको चलाउँछ। यी कुराहरू उल्लेख गरेको छ जुन चाहिँ चाइनाको टाङ वृत्तान्तमा अथवा इतिहासमा उल्लेख गरिएको छ।
The earliest known repose image is Garudasana Vishnu, dated 607 CE from Changunarayan temple in Bhaktapur. Some historical metal idols of the 6th and 7th century are remaining in private possession or in museum collections abroad. A significant consideration as evidence of copper metal craft are the idols dating back to the 11th century excavated in Makwanpur, which is a district adjoining Kathmandu. At the moment, these rare valuables are safely harbored at the Patan Darbar Square Museum. Among the 3 cities of Kathmandu Valley, Patan is comparatively popular for copper craft. Hundreds of families, especially the Newars, who are natives of this cultural city, have been preserving their ancestral legacy of manufacturing copperwares and artifacts for generations now. In Nepal, copper artifacts are made mainly through 2 techniques, either by lost waxing or repause, which is a technique of pounding metal sheets. The Malla period between 1200 to 1482 is considered a golden era in terms of metalcraft in Nepal. An array of work dazzling in its quantity and quality was produced then, much of which survives. The popularity of Nepali artisans had reached far and wide. It was in this period that Araniko, the famous artisan, was taken to Tibet. In 1265, Emperor Kublai Khan of China, impressed with Araniko's work, invited him to the capital and got him to renovate the artifacts in the monastery there, dating back to the Song period. In 1274, Emperor Khan appointed Araniko the director of the court artisans in China. To date, artists in hundreds are committed to continue the legacy of copper craft in Nepal. Among them, some are successfully effortful to simultaneously take ahead promotion and expansion of the craft. Among such names is Rajkumar Shakya, renowned for his crafts and entrepreneurship. Shakya was born on 1966 in Patan, in a family of metal craftsmen.
हाम्रो पुर्खौली अब बाजे बराजुदेखि नै यही काममा लाग्नु भएको बुवाले काम गर्नु भएको जासलमा बसेर बुवासँगै बसेर खेल्दै सिक्दै काम गर्दै गर्दै परम्परागत तरिकाले नै सिकेको मैले सानो बेला सिक्दाखेरि त्यति बजार पनि थिएन यो कलाको अहिले आउँदाखेरि यो कलाको चाहिँ बजार पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय जगतमा फैलिँदै गयो यसको चाहिँ उत्पादनमा पनि वृद्धि गर्नुपर्ने देखियो
Shakya's works have made a niche both in the national and international market. Passion, focus, devotion and search for new ideas is what has elevated Shakya's profile as compared to other artists. The incomparable expression of skill and creation of beauty are reflected in his works, which are beyond imagination for any ordinary artists. His widely acclaimed works of craft have been placed at various countries, with Japan, Vietnam, China, Thailand harboring his significant works. The latest is the 155 feet tall idol of Guru Padmasambhav in Bhutan. Based on repause, pounded sheets of copper were wrapped around iron skeleton, which was built using modern architecture. Supervised by Shakya, it took 4 years for 57 artisans to complete the idol.
2000 एक्सपो मा जर्मनमा मैले सबभन्दा ठुलो स्वयम्भूको स्तूपा बनाउने अवसर पाएँ फेरि पछि चाहिँ 2010 मा चाइनामा पनि फेरि एक्सपो वर्ल्ड एक्सपो मा त्यहाँ पनि मैले चाहिँ ठुलो स्तूपा बनाउने र अरु कलाकृतिहरू बनाउने मौका पाएँ त्यसमा चाहिँ अझ मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो हनुमान ढोकाको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति 12 फिटको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति पनि बनाउने अवसर पाएँ त्यो पनि त्यहाँ अब चाइनामा चाहिँ एक्सपोमा प्रदर्शन गर्न पाएँ त्यसपछि अनि चाहिँ मैले भुटानमा पद्मसम्भवको मूर्ति बनाउने पनि अवसर पाएँ
Cultural and anthropological experts have highly evaluated Shakya's efficiency and capabilities.
त्यो 14औं शताब्दीमा जुन परम्परा थियो हाम्रो नेपालबाट अन्य देशमा गएर चाहिँ नि कलाकारहरूले आफ्नो कला प्रस्तुत गर्ने नेपालको कलाकारितालाई त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि स्थापित गर्ने जुन काम गरेको थियो त्यसै कामको चाहिँ नि निरन्तरताको रूपमा अहिले हामीले 20औं 21औं शताब्दीमा राजकुमार साकेजीलाई पाएको छौं। यस्तो ठुलो ह्युज त्यो मूर्तिहरू बनाउने क्रममा चाहिँ नि त्यो मूर्तिको एउटा स्थानबाट अर्को स्थानमा सार्नु त्यस्तै गरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रोपोर्सनेट मिलाउने आदि इत्यादि टेक्निकल पनि एकदमै कठिन काम हो। अब यसलाई चाहिँ उहाँले अत्यन्तै माइन्युटली चाहिँ गर्नु हुँदो रहेछ।
To reach Shakya's stature, however, takes a lot of dedication, devotion, practice and patience. Thus, not many youth look keen in pursuing with the profession. Keeping this in mind, Shakya also conducts classes for the younger generation in a bid to hand it over to them. Most interestingly, Shakya's son is also one of his pupils and has already joined him in his business.
हेरिटेजमा नेपालको एकदम टुरिस्टहरु पनि एकदम आकर्षित भयो हेरिटेजमा हैन त्यही भएर अब बुवा पनि यसमै लाग्नु भयो त्यही पनि मैले नि यसमै गरौँ कि जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो बुवा यति आर्टिस्ट भएर पनि अब मेरोमा पनि धेरै एक्सपेक्टेसन गर्छन् होला अरूले पनि त्यही भएर अब सिक्न काम गाह्रो पनि छ सिक्न अब टाइम पनि लाग्नेछ धेरै सिक्न पनि त बाँकी छ।
Such noble endeavors, complemented by the engagement of the younger generation, have indeed sparked a hope that the prosperous tradition will be kept alive. For those involved in copper kitchenwares and housewares, the biggest emerging threat is the modern wares, which are both attractive and cheaper. In a bid to preserve their profession, they have now attempted to add diversity to their products based on the demand of the changing times. Meanwhile, there are others like Kalyan Krishna Tamrakar, who, although remaining in the trade, have embraced newer productions based on market needs. Tamrakar has been manufacturing artistic utensils along with internationally acclaimed singing bowls, which are mostly used in meditational purposes.
करीब 28 वर्ष भयो सिंगिङ बोल्स नयाँ सिंगिङ बोल्स बनाउने र त्यसमा अलिकति थेरापिक युजको लागि बनाएको सायद नेपालमा पहिलो नै मैले बनाए होला एउटा फिलोसफी हो र जहाँसम्म युटेन्सिल्स मैले बनाउने सन्दर्भमा पहिला यो धेरै पहिलाहरू बन्थ्यो र पछि बिस्तारै यो ब्रोन्जको युटेन्सिल्सहरू लोप हुँदै गयो अनि यो बनाउनु पाए हुन्छ कि भनेर अनि हामीले यसलाई फेरि बनाउन थालेको।
The market for singing bowls is mostly Europe and is used in intensive research and meditation. The sound created from the balls vary based on the utensil itself and is proven effective for improving blood circulation and hence is used in therapy as well. Tamrakar, whose forefathers had been copper craftsmen by profession, has justifiably promoted their knowledge and skills in the wider market through entrepreneurship. Majority of his buyers are from Germany and Japan.
やはり他で買いが利かないのと、さらにその日本の求める品質にネパールの人たちが合わせてものを作ってくれるからと思います。
私のユーザーは心を癒すそういったツールを大変求めているユーザーが多いです。例えばアロマセラピーの方でヨガの方そういった方たちの要望に応えるためにネパールから輸入しようと思いました。そうすると残ってる手作りは大変高いほとんどアーティストのレベルしか残りなくなります。一般の方が使う商品はもう今やネパールでないとできないのが現状だと思っています。ですから私たちのユーザーはそれを望んでますから今私もネパールから大変たくさんの量を輸入しています。
In the Yahikoyama terrain drained by Shinano River lies Niigata city. Rice farming is predominant owing to the rich soil deposit, which makes it ideal for agriculture. Besides, it is also renowned for the high-quality copper mines. During the Meiji period, copper mining flourished in the foothills. Adorned in tulip blooms, the designated city of food and flowers does not rest even amidst thick blankets of snow. Tsubame in Niigata is a city of metal craft and craftsmen that have thrived through prosperity and tumultuous times. At the beginning of the 1600s, lot of artisans came to exist in the Tsubame Sanjo area, driven by the local administration's policy of encouraging side business. Thus originated the metal processing industry from the making of Japanese-style nails known as wakugi. The first artisans also produced household items including agricultural tools, kitchenwares and tobacco pipes. Once Japan started importing Western-style nails, the number of artisans gradually started decreasing. During the Second World War until 1945, the factories in the local area had to be mobilized to produce military goods. The 1950s was a time of mass production and mass consumption in Japan. Thus, metal processing companies grew multifold in number and size. Following the Plaza Accord that largely intervened currency markets, the factories gradually lost their business to their overseas competitors. They did not have as many orders as they once had. As a result, the local business temporarily but sharply declined.
今、燕市で鎚起銅器というふうに言われている、器といいますか、ものがありますけれども、それは一般的に金工でいう金属を加工する技術の中の単金と言われるものの一つでして、それを全国的に同じような技法はたくさんあるんですけれども、燕市ではそれを鎚起銅器と呼んでいる。燕市の鎚起銅器というのは伝統工芸技術としても県の指定にもなっておりますし、伝統工芸品としても指定されていますが、燕市の中ではだいたい今から250年くらい前の江戸時代の後期にその技術が仙台の方から来た職人によって伝わったと言われています。
Kakuhei Tamagawa also learned the technique from the craftsman and hence founded Gyokusendo in 1816. Since then, about 300 artisans have kept alive the traditional skills. The company is currently a leader in Niigata to preserve and expand the treasured tradition of tsukidoki. It is said during the Second World War, when weapons and arms mass production had peaked, the tsukidoki industry nearly disappeared owing to shortages of copper. It was Gyokusendo's then leadership that brought back the craftsmen dispersed across the country that helped in the revival of the industry. Gyokusendo celebrates its 200th anniversary in 2016. Today, its outlets are spread in top-notch departmental stores in high-end streets of Japan and overseas. Motoyuki Tamagawa is the 7th master of Gyokusendo. Since taking over the company at an early age, he has worked hard to promote his products and company. Tamagawa, who strongly believes in adapting to business management style with time rather than changing age-old skill patterns, introduced the trend of putting his artisans in direct contact with the customers at Gyokusendo's outlets and during exhibitions. This, he believes, not only helps customer understand the skill and hard work required to create an artifact, but also helps the artisans learn the needs and tastes of the changing times.
顔の見える商売をしようと思ったんですよね。でそこで私考えたのが商社を下ろさずに、直接百貨店に行って、でそこで実演販売をして、職人がお客様と会話するようなこのビジネスモデルを作っているんですね。この玉泉の方向としては、大量というよりは本当同期を愛用してくださる方に対してちゃんと説明して、ちゃんと愛用していただける方を対象としたやっぱり商売をしていきたいと思ってますんで、だからそういうこと職人も、だから職人をどんどん増やすというわけではなく、ビジネスもどんどん大きくするわけではなくて、ちゃんと玉泉堂というブランドをね、高めていく。で、お客様のその愛用する、これだけ満足度もやっぱり高めていくというところがすごく大事だと思ってますね。
At the Gyokusendo factory, about 15 artisans of various ages work hard by the day to improve their skills. Working with Gyokusendo is a dream for many artisans. Gyokusendo recruits one from among hundreds applying every year. For a craftsman, it can take about 20 to 30 years to acquire proficiency to handle a set of techniques all by himself. Each stroke in tsukidoki is made in such a way such that the marks do not overlap. The proficiency of an artisan is observed in a vessel made out of one copper sheet and without any seams. For the younger artisans, it is a matter of a lot of perseverance and patience. Today, all independent tsukidoki artisans in Tsubame were once trained at Gyokusendo. Among them, a prominent name is of an artist par excellence, Master Norio Tamagawa.
今のその木目金イコール木目金っていうのがもう、のりおさんのことなんですけれども、その土台となっているのはやっぱり玉泉堂で修行していた時代の追記銅器という技術が骨幹にあって根元のところにあって、でそこから、亡くなられた師匠のところに、弟子入りをしたりですとか、いろんなご苦労修行の中でご苦労されながら、今、世界にも名前を馳せるようになった素晴らしい作品を作られるようになったと思います。
Master Norio Tamagawa is the pride of Niigata and is acclaimed as the living national treasure, Japan. His insurmountable contribution in reviving mokumegane through his outstanding and unique creation is beyond comparison. The Tsubame Industrial History Museum, which is a hub to compile, preserve and exhibit industrial heritages, has set up a separate section to exhibit his works. This meticulously carved artifact harbored at the museum is the master's signature art piece. The masterpiece is a delicately hammered, refined handiwork that, owing to its traditional aura and aesthetic value, has awed art lovers and consumers across the world.
いわゆる就職って言いますか、会社へ入りますね。従業員として入って、何年か経った時に少し外の世界も見たいと思って東京へ2年ばかり修行に行ったんです。日本の芸大っていうね、その人たちとの交流もあったんで、私の場合はずっとほら商品を作ってたわけでしょ。商品じゃない作品作りのペースっていうのをね、違うもんだなっていうのをつくづく感じましたね。
The master reminisces it took him 11 years before he could call his product a piece of art. As a young artist, he took inspiration from his seniors to aim high and excel bigger dreams.
作品作りには影響ないね。作品の場合はあくまでも個人の欲求のままに作るんですからね。世間が何を求めてるかっていうのはあんまり関係ない。っていうのは力がいる仕事なんでね。もう70過ぎてね、元気っていうのは今まであんまりいなかったんです。だから私は仕方ないからやってるけども、だから夢はないけども、もう作品をいくつ作れるか。
The traditional skill nurtured by newer skills, tools and technology has elevated the 200-year-old technique to a world-class art. Contemporary Sukidoki products include a wide range of aesthetically distinctive housewares and artifacts. Mr. Tatsushi Tamagawa, currently the chief manager at Gyokusendo, is Master Norio Tamagawa's son. He started as an artisan at Gyokusendo. Since then, much has changed. He has seen the changing business landscape, the diversity in products, which he says directly or indirectly determines the mindset and working style of an artisan.
言われたものを、早くきっちり作るっていうのがいい職人だと思うんですけども、最近はプラス、いろいろこういう喋るものとかも今はそういうふうに、いろいろお客様に説明するとかそういうものも含まれて、全てこなしていい職人になるのかなという感じは最近はありますね。
Most fascinatingly, his son Keita, the youngest of the Tamagawas, also works under him at Gyokusendo. At 20, Keita is already an efficient beginner. Initially, driven by his grandfather's success when he joined the company, it was but a prized escape for Keita. But now, Keita is intensively working hard to attain the precision to be a better artist.
そうですね。どちらの方もすごい仕事に対して一生懸命で寡黙なので、そういうところを自分に取り入れられたらいいなとは思ってますね。なんか、僕のお父さんもなんだおじいちゃんに真似してるっていうか似てきているのでなんかそうですね。おじいちゃんからはやっぱりちょっと仕事がすごいテキパキ早いので、そういうところを見習いたいなとは思いますね。そういうところです。はい。
Since the beginning of human civilization, art has evolved based on culture and vice versa. Nevertheless, the demand of changing times has had a detrimental role to play in its course and form. Whether it is Niigata or Kathmandu, artisans continue to express themselves in their artworks. There is little doubt the modern-day artisans' creativity, aided by modern technology, has not only helped preserve traditional skills, but also contributed to the ascent of human civilization.
Venezuela's interim leader Delcy Rodriguez says U.S. military action that led to the ouster and capture of former President Nicolas Maduro has left a deep strain on bilateral relations, even as Caracas moves to resume oil trade with Washington. Despite years of hostility and a U.S. oil embargo imposed in 2019, state oil company PDVSA confirms it is negotiating crude sales to the United States, which Washington says it will control indefinitely. Attention has shifted to Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the world's largest, as tankers load crude near Lake Maracaibo, though operations face uncertainty from sanctions enforcement and recent U.S. seizures of vessels linked to a so-called ghost fleet used to bypass restrictions. The United States, once Venezuela's main oil buyer, says renewed engagement aims to ensure access for U.S. and Western companies, while analysts note the focus so far has been on energy rather than political reforms. U.S. President Donald Trump announced that Venezuela will use revenue from a new oil deal exclusively to purchase American-made products, including agricultural goods and industrial equipment, following the ouster of Nicolas Maduro. The United States said it will control Venezuelan oil sales indefinitely, with Caracas set to transfer tens of millions of barrels of crude to the U.S. as part of the arrangement. Trump also said he is planning a White House meeting with Colombian President Gustavo Petro after months of tense relations over drug trafficking and earlier military threats. Both leaders described a recent phone call as constructive, signaling a possible thaw in Washington's approach to South America. Clashes in southwest Iran on Wednesday left 2 people dead and around 30 injured, marking the 11th consecutive day of nationwide protests, according to the state-affiliated Fars news agency. The violence erupted in the city of Lordagan, where shopkeepers were reportedly demonstrating when some individuals began throwing stones at police. Fars said that some protesters were armed with military and hunting weapons and opened fire on security forces, though it was unclear whether the fatalities were among police or civilians. The demonstrations reflect broader unrest in Iran, where waves of protests have erupted over economic hardship, political grievances, and social restrictions. Slogans such as "Long live the Shah" indicate that some protesters are openly challenging the Islamic Republic's leadership, invoking nostalgia for the monarchy that ruled before the 1979 revolution. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Wednesday that European allies have yet to provide a clear, unequivocal answer on how they would respond if Russia launched another attack, even as talks continue on a potential ceasefire. While European leaders and U.S. envoys recently announced agreements on security measures, including a U.S.-led monitoring mechanism and a European multinational force, Zelensky stressed that legally binding guarantees backed by parliaments and Congress are still missing. He emphasized that Kyiv needs formal assurances that partners would act decisively in the event of renewed Russian aggression. Meanwhile, U.S. and Ukrainian envoys are in Paris negotiating some of the most sensitive points of a potential deal, including the status of the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and control over territory in eastern Ukraine. Zelensky's comments highlight the ongoing uncertainty in Europe over how to provide robust security guarantees to Ukraine amid the war. French farmers have driven tractors into central Paris to protest a proposed free trade agreement between the European Union and the South American Mercosur bloc. Dozens of tractors entered the city before dawn, passing major landmarks including the Arc de Triomphe in demonstrations organized by farming unions. Protesters, including members of the Coordination Rurale and the Rural Confederation, later gathered near the Eiffel Tower to voice concerns about the deal. Farmers fear the agreement would allow cheaper agricultural products from South America to enter European markets, undercutting local producers who face higher costs and stricter regulations. The Mercosur trade deal aims to boost trade between the EU and Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay, but it remains controversial in several European countries, particularly among farmers. Hundreds of foreign tourists have been stranded on Yemen's remote Socotra island after flights were suspended due to renewed clashes on the mainland. An airport official said 416 tourists are expected to leave from Wednesday on Yemenia Airways flight, traveling first to the southern city of Aden and then onward to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Socotra, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is known for its rare wildlife and dramatic landscapes and is often described as one of the most biodiverse places on Earth. While the island itself remains calm, Yemen has been embroiled in years of conflict, which frequently disrupts transport and security. One tourist, Hungarian national Istvan, said that although Socotra is beautiful, he is relieved that arrangements are now in place to return home. Severe snowfall and freezing temperatures have caused a widespread travel disruption in France, with around 100 flights cancelled at Paris's Charles de Gaulle Airport and about 40 more at Orly Airport. French Transport Minister Philippe Tabarot said the disruption had been expected and expressed hope that conditions would improve later in the day. All public bus services in Paris and its surrounding suburbs were suspended due to icy roads, although most metro and suburban train services continue to operate. France's weather agency Météo France placed 38 of the country's 96 mainland departments on alert for heavy snow and black ice, calling the cold snap unusually intense for this time of year. Authorities urged residents in the Paris region to avoid unnecessary travel, as at least 6 people have died in weather-related accidents during Europe's harshest cold spell so far this winter. Leading Chinese artificial intelligence startup Zhipu AI has made its stock market debut on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, with shares jumping sharply in early trading. The company's stock rose as much as 11.8% after an oversubscribed initial public offering that raised about 4.35 billion Hong Kong dollars, or roughly $558 million. Zhipu AI is known for its ZAI platform and is considered one of China's prominent players in large language models and generative AI. Its listing comes amid strong investor interest in Chinese tech firms, despite ongoing global scrutiny of China's technology sector. The debut also comes just a day before rival Chinese AI startup Minimax is set to go public, highlighting growing momentum in China's artificial intelligence industry. German shares have reached a historic milestone, with the DAX stock index rising above 25,000 points for the first time since it was created. The DAX tracks the 40 largest and most influential companies listed in Frankfurt, including major industrial, automotive, and technology firms, and is widely seen as a barometer of Europe's biggest economy. The rally follows strong gains on Wall Street in the United States as global investors grow more optimistic about the impact of artificial intelligence on productivity and corporate earnings. Expectations that AI-driven technologies will boost profits across sectors have lifted stock markets worldwide. For Germany, which relies heavily on exports and advanced manufacturing, enthusiasm around AI has strengthened investor confidence despite broader economic challenges in Europe. Argentina has secured a $3 billion loan from 6 international banks, boosting its foreign currency reserves as it prepares to meet more than $4 billion in debt payments due this week. The central bank said the deal is a short-term passive repo loan using Argentine government bonds as collateral, with a maturity of just over 1 year and an annual interest rate of about 7.4%. The financing comes at a sensitive moment for President Javier Milei's government, which is trying to stabilize the economy amid low reserve levels and ongoing market pressure. Argentina's gross international reserves stand at about $44.2 billion, though analysts note that usable reserves are significantly lower. The country has a long history of debt crisis and has defaulted multiple times, including in 2001 during a severe economic collapse and again in 2020 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Paul Thomas Anderson's politically charged film One Battle After Another has emerged as a major awards frontrunner after leading this year's Screen Actors Guild Actor Awards nominations with a record 7 nods. The film, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as an aging revolutionary, is competing closely with Ryan Coogler's period horror hit Sinners, which received 5 nominations, setting up a 2-film race heading into the Oscars. SAG voters, who make up the largest branch of the Academy that decides the Academy Awards, are seen as a key indicator of Oscar momentum. One Battle After Another is nominated for the Top Ensemble Award, SAG's equivalent of Best Picture, along with acting and stunt categories, while Sinners also secured major acting nominations, including for Michael B. Jordan. The Actor Award ceremony will be held in Los Angeles on March 1 and streamed live on Netflix just weeks before the Academy Awards in March.
Hello, and we welcome you to NTV World's special program, Look Back 2025, where we are taking a look at the major events that marked the gone year 2025. I am Bhavana Kesi. From wars, conflicts, geopolitical shifts to political revolutions, changing global economy to natural disasters to innovation to moments that made us smile, we will delve into the events that defined 2025 and tell the stories of the world we live in. Conflict, war, and geopolitical dynamics dominated the global headlines in 2025. The war in Ukraine continued into its 4th year, entrenching a prolonged conflict. A fragile ceasefire in the Israel-Gaza conflict that was reached in mid-year has reduced large-scale fighting. Tensions also flared again along parts of the Thailand-Cambodia border, with a ceasefire reached in the end of the year, easing immediate hostilities.
The Ukraine-Russia war has entered its 4th year, continuing to reshape European security, defense spending, and global energy and food markets. Fighting persists in eastern Ukraine, leaving the humanitarian situation critical, while NATO allies face ongoing military and economic pressures. U.S. President Donald Trump launched high-profile diplomatic efforts, meeting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Florida and speaking with Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying the sides are closer than ever to a ceasefire. Key sticking points, including the status of Ukraine's Donbas region, long-term security guarantees, and territorial control, remain unresolved. Russian officials have warned that battlefield tensions could affect negotiations, while Kiev insists any agreement must fully protect Ukrainian sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Israel-Gaza conflict remains a flashpoint in the Middle East, with regional tensions threatening to spill over into neighboring countries. Concerns have intensified over potential involvement by Lebanon, Iran, and maritime routes in the Red Sea, raising fears of a broader regional escalation. International observers continue to call for restraint and repeated outbreaks of violence. In Southeast Asia, tensions along the Thailand-Cambodia border flared in 2025, marking a resurgence of a long-standing territorial dispute. The clashes centered on contested areas linked to historical temple sites and border demarcations. A ceasefire was reached towards the end of year, with officials committing to renewed negotiations to resolve the dispute peacefully and prevent further escalation.
Across the globe, 2025 became a year of youth-led protest. Gen Zs took to the streets in Nepal, Indonesia, the Philippines, Timor-Leste, Mexico, Morocco, Kenya, Madagascar, Peru, demanding good governance, accountability, reforms, better services, and an end to corruption. Bangladesh also continued to experience widespread unrest in 2025 with public grievances over rising social and economic tensions in the country.
Protests erupted across multiple countries, reflecting widespread public frustration over ill governance, corruption, economic hardship, and social injustices. In Nepal, Gen Z demonstrations in early September that erupted demanding good governance, accountability, and end to corruption led to ouster of the KP Sharma-led government. The key government offices, including parliament buildings, ministries, and offices within Singapore, were gutted during the demonstrations. Indonesia saw mass rallies calling for stricter anti-corruption measures and clearer economic policies, while in the Philippines, youth-led protests demanded good governance and end to rising economic pressures. In Morocco, young demonstrators took to the streets demanding better public services and structural reforms, while in Kenya, citizens are protesting economic policies and growing inequality. Madagascar also saw activism focusing on environmental issues and governance, reflecting broader concerns over resource management. In Peru, large-scale demonstrations were held against the government and recent changes to pension policies. In Mexico, Gen Z youths rallied against corruption and rising crime rates, calling for stronger law enforcement and reforms to improve public safety. The youth protests in the gone year underscore a global pattern of civic activism, with citizens increasingly mobilizing to demand accountability, transparency, and improved economic and social policies.
In 2025, the global economy faced significant headwinds as U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies, including higher import taxes on a wide range of goods, reshaped trade flows and raised policy uncertainty worldwide. The International Monetary Fund repeatedly revised its growth outlook throughout the year amid these developments.
The global economy faced mounting challenges as U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff policies triggered a broad trade war, reshaping international trade flows and heightening uncertainty for businesses and policymakers worldwide. Higher import taxes on a wide range of goods, including electronics, steel, and agricultural products, prompted retaliatory tariffs from major trading partners such as China, the European Union, and Mexico, further intensifying market volatility. Economists stressed that unilateral tariff measures undermined the rules-based international trade system and could have long-term consequences for global economic stability. The International Monetary Fund repeatedly downgraded its global growth forecasts, citing the combined impact of protectionist measures, escalating trade tensions, supply chain disruptions, and rising inflation. Concerns were raised that the prolonged tariff war can slow investment, raise costs for consumers and businesses, and stall economic recovery in both developed and emerging markets across the world. In 2025, global financial markets were marked by significant price movements as both the US dollar and gold grabbed investor attention. The US dollar reached record highs against several currencies. Gold prices also surged to historic, with the precious metal repeatedly reaching record price levels above $4,000 per ounce. This combination of currency and commodity trends reflected a complex investment landscape in 2025, where market participants balanced the rising influence of dollar dynamics with the enduring appeal of gold as protection against uncertainty.
2025 was one of the hottest years on record. Extreme weather struck globally. Severe floods displaced millions in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe, and East Africa. Cyclones and storms were more frequent, while wildfires raged across North America, the Mediterranean, and Australia. Scientists warn that temporary breaches of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels are becoming increasingly frequent, highlighting the escalating impact of climate change.
Marine ecosystems face severe stress as marine heat waves intensify, causing widespread coral bleaching and disrupting fisheries. It has been warned that the loss of reef-based fish stocks threatens food security and the livelihoods of millions of coastal communities, particularly in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Severe flooding displaced millions across South Asia, parts of Europe, and East Africa, destroying crops and infrastructure and worsening existing humanitarian crises. Countries including Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Colombia were particularly affected, with heavy rainfall inundating urban areas, sweeping away homes, and disrupting transportation and power networks. These floods also highlighted the increasingly erratic rainfall patterns. Large-scale wildfires in North America, the Mediterranean, and Australia, fueled by prolonged droughts and extreme heat, not only destroyed property and ecosystems, but also contributed significantly to carbon emissions, creating a feedback loop that further accelerates global warming. Meanwhile, stronger and wetter cyclones and tropical storms in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific highlighted the link between rising sea surface temperatures and storm intensity. Coastal communities faced fatalities, widespread displacements, and economic losses, exposing the limits of existing infrastructure and disaster response systems in the gone year.
Interestingly, in the gone year, artificial intelligence reshaped global dynamics, moving from a technological tool to a core political and geopolitical issue. Governments around the world raced to regulate AI as concerns grew over deepfakes, automation, and data control, which posed risk to privacy, security, and personal details.
Countries are increasingly viewing AI as a national security and economic priority. The potential for AI to disrupt labor markets, manipulate information, and influence elections has elevated it to the top of policy agendas, while international competition for AI leadership is reshaping geopolitical dynamics. The European Union, the United States, China, and other major powers have unveiled frameworks addressing data privacy, ethical AI use, and algorithmic transparency, although differences in approach are raising questions about global coordination. At the same time, governments and multinational organizations are exploring cooperative mechanisms to establish international norms, highlighting AI's dual nature as both a tool for innovation and a potential source of instability. The year 2025 showed AI is no longer solely a technology sector issue, but a force shaping diplomacy, governance, and security strategies worldwide.
In 2025, space exploration reached new milestones, from lunar and Martian missions to advanced satellites monitoring climate and communications. The year also witnessed American singer Katy Perry performing a live song from orbit, blending science and entertainment in a moment that captured global attention.
Space agencies across the globe reported significant achievements in 2025, highlighting both scientific breakthroughs and cultural milestones. NASA, alongside private partners, launched new robotic and crewed missions to the moon, advancing efforts to establish a sustained human presence. At the same time, Russia's Roscosmos conducted crewed orbital missions and advanced lunar research projects, reaffirming its role as a key player in global space exploration. Beyond lunar missions, China and the United Arab Emirates expanded Mars exploration programs, deploying orbiters and surface probes that provided critical data on planetary geology, atmospheric conditions, and potential signs of past water. These missions aim not only to answer fundamental questions about planetary formation, but also to lay the groundwork for future human colonization and interplanetary research. Adding a cultural dimension to 2025's space achievements, American singer Katy Perry performed a live song from orbit, broadcast to audiences on Earth. The event, organized in collaboration with space agencies, symbolized a unique intersection of science, technology, and global culture. Officials said the performance was designed to inspire younger generations to ignite public interest in space exploration.
The world of sports offered moments of triumph. PSG clinched its first UEFA Champions League trophy. Preparations for the expanded FIFA World Cup also continued, promising a more global tournament in 2026.
India marked the return of the ICC Champions Trophy after an 8-year gap by lifting the title for a record third time in the UAE in March. Virat Kohli's century against Pakistan had lit up the group stage. while Rohit Sharma anchored the final with a composed 76 off 83 balls as India chased down 252 to beat New Zealand by 4 wickets. In women's football, England successfully defended its European crown by beating Spain on penalties in the Swiss city of Basel in the final of Euro 2025. England's victorious Lionesses later celebrated their dramatic triumph along with tens of thousands of ecstatic fans outside Buckingham Palace in London. In club football, Paris Saint-Germain PSG claimed its first UEFA Champions League trophy in 2025, thrashing Inter Milan 5-0. The victory not only boosted the club's international profile, but also signaled France's growing influence in European football. Preparations for the expanded 2026 FIFA World Cup continued, with organizers planning to accommodate 48 teams across the host countries, the USA, Mexico, and Canada. Infrastructure projects, including stadium upgrades, transport networks, and fan accommodations, are underway. Officials emphasize that the expanded format aims to make the World Cup more global and inclusive, while also presenting logistical challenges in scheduling, security, and coordination among host nations. However, fan groups have branded the ticket prices as outrageous, with some prices reportedly 3 times higher than those seen at the previous edition of the tournament held in Qatar in 2022.
The year 2025 also witnessed an unusual mix of unusual and bizarre old events that captured public attention worldwide. Among them, a daring heist at France's museum topped headlines, while the craze for Labubu dolls became a global cult.
The daring heist at France's Louvre Museum in 2025 captured global attention as thieves reportedly targeted rare and priceless artworks under highly sophisticated circumstances. Authorities said the operation involved careful planning, advanced tools, and an unprecedented breach of security protocols, raising concerns about the vulnerability of even the world's most iconic cultural institutions. In response, museums and galleries across Europe and beyond tightened security measures, implementing advanced surveillance systems, reinforced display cases, and stricter access controls. The investigation into the Louvre heist continues, with authorities vowing to recover the stolen pieces and bring the perpetrators to justice. If 2025 had a face, it was undoubtedly made of vinyl, with pointy ears, big eyes, and a grin with precisely 9 teeth. Created by Hong Kong artist Ka-Sing Leung and adapted from picture book series The Monsters, the slightly scary-looking Labubu could be seen hanging from everybody's bags in the gone year. Nano Banana and the Studio Ghibli trend emerged as one of the most heartwarming viral moments of 2025, captivating audiences worldwide. Memes also took center stage in 2025, with viral phrases such as "Trump take egg" reflecting public anxiety over inflation. Election of Zohran Mamdani to the post of New York mayor also highlighted the expanding role of digital platforms in shaping political influence, particularly among younger voters, and underscored how internet culture increasingly intersects with contemporary politics. These viral phenomenons of 2025 highlighted how pop culture and digital tools can combine to create shared, uplifting experiences.
That was a recap of 2025, a year that was a mix of conflict, social changes, economic shifts, innovation, and unexpected moments to viral crazes that captured the world's attention. Now, as we turn our eyes to 2026, we hope this year brings peace, progress, and joyful moments. As we say goodbye, we'll leave you with the celebrations of cities welcoming the 2026 with dazzling fireworks, musical performances, and jubilant gatherings. Have a great year ahead.
music all over the world is I think it's a universal language, you know. And basically, when it comes to musicians like us, we really get connected when somebody or from some part of the music from different part of the world can go well together, and we can do so many different things, you know, because we come from different culture, we come from different perspectives in life, you know.
We started jamming together, and then we were asked to play a festival at the Pathan Museum called the Namlo Music Festival, Music and Heritage Festival, I believe it was called. And so we were asked to do that, and I said, okay, I'll put together a band with Prince. And then he called his old buddies from when he grew up jamming with them. I would play a bluegrass tune, and then they would say, oh, that sort of goes like this Nepali tune. And we would just go from one to the other, and then I would show them my songs, and we would do that. So that was 3 years ago now.
Joy and Prince has already said about it. Actually, they both first met each other. I mean, Joy knew Prince's father back in the US, and I was a struggling musician in Kathmandu, and I was friend with Mr. Prince Nepali, and we used to play in some other different bands as well. And once Joy and Prince, they both met, and Prince was like, are you interested in doing something new, something different rather than rock and pop music? What about some fusions and bluegrass and folk music? And he challenged me like, do you want to do it or not? And I was like, okay, I'm up for it. And then actually it's that kind of story.
Actually, I'm planning like I haven't done any like production or anything like this with this instrument, so I'm actually planning for like trying to fuse a different instrument and get some production of different like percussion instrument and our traditional composition. Not just Tibet, there are also different instruments like chi, ta, and different folk instrument as well. So I think also I'm planning like to get collaborated with different folk artists and the traditional drummers to bring them together and then make some compositions or just play the already composed things and then just make out some videos and then share it with, maybe on some social platforms like this.
The music that we are doing right now is like a crossover between American bluegrass music and Nepali folk music. And actually, first of all, we came up with an idea of just playing with each other, just jamming together. And we found out that, okay, so this could work very nicely together. So I'm using like a traditional instrument, sarangi, and we're combining this with the mandolin that comes from the US and you know the bluegrass music. And I think my idea is basically to present it like my folk culture and my traditional songs, and also like go together with the American music. I've been very fortunate and blessed to be born in such like musical family. So being a fourth generation, I think I never felt the pressure. First of all, because I enjoyed what I was doing, and then more than that, I think it's basically the kind of fun that I have with music, and I think there's some different intimacy between me and music, you know. So I really enjoyed what I was doing, and I really had great fun. So I've been working on different projects and trying to inspire the youth at the moment in my life. So I have this project called Sarangi Ghar, where I basically have like classes. We also have the store. We do produce sarangi, and I think it's also encourages me to explore with the instrument itself, you know, and the culture itself, because it's so beautiful. And like Nepal being so rich in culture and tradition, I want to like collaborate with different artists, folk artists in Nepal, and all from the world actually, and create different kind of new music with different caste and ethnic groups here in Nepal. They also have their own traditional instruments, folk instrument, you know. And I think you must like find a way to have fun with it actually. And then I think more than anything else, actually, the youths can just enjoy what they have been like with the music itself. And I really actually want them to explore Nepali music more, you know. Youth can basically have like an opportunity where they can just go explore, you know, find an instrument. We have tungna, we have sarangi, we have many other instruments. Like if you go in the western part of Nepal, you have like far western part, you have hudke baza, you know, and there's lots of binayo and everything. And I find panche baza is interesting as well. So, you know, everybody can explore like whatever interest they have. They don't have to take it very professionally. They can just enjoy with it actually. Himalayan Highway is like it's a music that's crossed between the Nepali folk and American bluegrass music. So today we'll be presenting mostly the fusion of like the instrumental thing, and we will be singing a few of our original songs. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy.
चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई पानी परेको बादलहरू अझै पनि माथि माथि घामको न्यानो स्पर्शसँगै इन्द्रेणीको रङ्ग पनि त्यही सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको भावनाहरूलाई सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मन मेरो खुला आकाशै भरिएको छ जुन र ताराले आफ्नो खुसी यहाँ आफै खुसी उडी जान्छु हावा बनी सरररा उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँग यो मेरो मनको पावनाहरूलाई सररर उडाइ लाग्यो चिसो हावासँगै हो मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई मेरो मनको चाहनाहरूलाई
Actually, our first name was Manaslu Blue. The blue was for bluegrass, and then Manaslu was for Nepal. But then I was, about a year in, I was brainstorming with my parents, and our goal with the band is to bring it abroad. I come from my perspective of American folk music, and these guys bring their wonderful Nepali folk music. And I think the goal of the band is to share this amazing fusion and to show people especially how amazing Nepali folk music is and how much we can do these cross-cultural collaborations. But the thing about Manaslu Blue is that no one outside of Nepal knows the mountain Manaslu. So then I was thinking with my dad, and somehow we came to Himalayan Highway. Highway is a very American thing, and there are a lot of bluegrass bands, Blue Highway, Golden Highway, so it's a common name. And then we thought Himalayan to talk about Nepal and the region. Well, first of all, I just fell in love with Nepali culture. I love momos, I love dal bhat, I love it all. I love this beautiful country. We want to show more people the beautifulness of Nepal. I think that from my perspective, I love Nepali folk music, but in this country, sometimes people haven't valued it. They've looked to the West for other influences. And so one of our goals is to bring up Nepali folk and fusing it. We're not just doing pure folk music, but to show that this is a vibrant, evolving history and tradition that is still relevant today. And then I also think to people abroad, and especially to Nepalis, I want to show them that they can take their instruments and their culture and they can bring it to the world, and that it's so amazing. I mean, everyone who I know who's, maybe they don't know so much about Nepal, maybe the only thing they know is that Mount Everest is there. But then once they try a momo, once they hear some music, then they love it. And so we want to just share this music with more people and share the cross-cultural collaboration.
Cause all day I chug
sometimes at the end, does it fade on the page? And my eyes just run a glaze. And I say, hallelujah, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And I say, hallelujah, let it burn, let it burn. There's a guy on the stage, and he's playing the guitar the wrong way around. And I also have to tell you that that's not his main instrument, in fact. His main instrument is the piano, but he also slays at the guitar. That's Mr. Enes Tamang.
Nowadays, I think many young generations, upcoming generations, like they are more over into like different. I mean, it doesn't mean to demean it, but people are more over into different kind of music rather than our own cultural music. And I think promoting like this, like promoting through our own traditional instrument like sarangi and tabla, and maybe fusing it. Of course, it's not like we don't utilize the Western culture. Also, we utilize it, but we should not forget like our own roots, our own culture. So yeah, I think it's important so that we could carry the legacy as well of our own musical instruments and our own culture as well. Our brand is like, it's like the main goal is to like, of course, promoting the folk culture, our own tradition and culture music, and with a unique taste, of course, as mentioned earlier. And I want to encourage you all to do music, like never give up. Like in some point of life, like we are doing it as a professionally, and some people might be like demotivated, or they might be like in confusion also whether should they pursue the music as their career or not. But I suggest them just do it. I know there is going to be ups and downs, there is going to be struggle, a lot of struggles, but it's worth it. It's worth it. And yes, of course, don't forget to promote their own culture as we are doing. We just wrote a song like few days ago, and it was so random, but it turned out so beautiful. It's called Samjana Bho, and it's a Nepali, like Prince wrote it. It's a Nepali song, but we are fusing it with the American bluegrass thing. And recently, it's the favorite. Not because it's just written in few days ago, but it has a very good meaning.
Story चाहिँ childhood love story को बारेमा हो, जहाँ चाहिँ दुईजना साथीहरू चाहिँ एकदमै स्कुल टाइमको लभदेखि नै धेरै अगाडि बढिसकेपछि चाहिँ एउटा पोइन्टमा चाहिँ जुन चाहिँ केटी साथी हुन्छ ऊ चाहिँ 4-5 वर्षको लभ पछि चाहिँ हराउँछ र त्यो हराएको बेलामा चाहिँ केटाले चाहिँ धेरै थुप्रै प्रयासहरू गर्छ खोज्नलाई चाहिँ तर कहिले पनि भेट्न सक्दैन र पछि हिँड्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब 5 इयर्स पास भइसकेपछि चाहिँ अगाडि गएर हिँड्दै बाटोतिर हिँड्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसले झसङ्ग एकजना चिनेको अनुहार देख्छ है अनि चिनेको अनुहार देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ उसलाई चाहिँ अब उसले पहिला भेटेको मान्छे चाहिँ अलिकति चेन्ज भएको रहेछ तर अगाडि जानलाई चाहिँ ऊ अगाडि बढिसकेको हुन्छ तर त्यहाँ चाहिँ एउटा सानो बच्चाले चाहिँ त्यो केटीको हात समाएर हिँडिरहेको हुन्छ जुन चाहिँ उसको छोरी हुन्छ केटा चाहिँ अब अगाडि बढ्न सक्दैन र त्यहाँबाट चाहिँ यो गीतको सुरुवात हुन्छ सम्झना सम्झना
Well, there's one person who has actually the most microphones, but no vocal mic. He's got a master's in tabla performance, and he's just an amazing percussionist, Mr. Yusuf Maharjan.
So right now I'm using these three stone instruments. So basically, this instrument on my left side is called dhime. So this is our traditional ethnic Newari instrument. It's from Kathmandu Valley itself. Unique sound, actually. It's very bass boosted, and it's one of the very important instrument for our Kathmandu Valley, and it's used in most of the festivals. Like, you will barely see a festival where there is no dhime instrument. So I think the instrument that holds too many emotions of this valley and this country, it should be shared and should be known to the world. And so speaking about this mandal and tabla, and also with the tabla, I would say like all of these three instruments these are one of the really old instrument of the world. I would say like it's more than 1,000 years old instrument. So it's already like history living and the sounding of history, you know. So I think it's really important that the Western music that's not even more than 500 years old is being too much exposed, and yet this more old and more dynamic instrument, not just dynamic, and also the compositions, the sound, the tonal quality, this instrument really needs highlight to the world. Yeah. At first, the whatever generation is alive right now, so they must actually pass down this tradition and this instrument, how to play the instrument, how to blend this instrument with different musics that's available in the world right now. That's it. To be honest, I'm really proud right now because there is not too much like musicians who are promoting our own traditional music or our instruments. Lots of Nepali people and youngsters nowadays, like they are too much into Western music, and I'm not saying that's wrong, but I think along with the Western music, I think we should also try to share our Nepali culture, Nepali music. And so this is one of our initiative to show the world like how can we fuse Nepali folk instruments music with the American bluegrass music, and show them the new taste, how does it sound with the fusion of these two different music from different worlds.
Security agencies intensify preparations for elections, 80,000 army personnel to be deployed. Nepal urges restraint and peaceful dialogue, calls on all parties to respect Venezuela's sovereignty amid rising tensions. Nepal seeks extension and quota increase for EPS workers to South Korea. Government forms task force to ensure transparency and fairness in employment process. Nepali Congress's dispute over special and regular conventions deepens. Disgruntled sides spearhead preparations for the special convention next week.
US pulls out from 66 international organizations, including UN-linked bodies. Decision affects groups working on climate and governance. And ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier fixtures announced. Nepal to play Thailand on 18th of January. Good evening, I am Sarah Sapsanamarai and this is NTV World News Hour coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. Nepali Army and police are stepping up preparations for the House of Representatives election on March 5. Around 80,000 Army personnel will be deployed under the Integrated Security Plan 2082, securing ballot paper, printing vital installations, airports and prisons. During voting, the Army will protect voters, candidates and election staff and oversee ballot box transport and count centres. Meanwhile, Nepal Police has opened applications for 133,980 election police personnel. Citizens aged 18 to 54 who are physically and mentally fit, literate and free from criminal or political affiliation can apply from January 9 to 15. Selected personnel will serve for 40 days with pay and allowances. This and more we look into our issue of the day later today. The government of Nepal has said it is closely monitoring the recent developments in Venezuela amid rising international tensions. In an official statement, Nepal urged all parties to exercise maximum restraint and avoid actions that could escalate the situation further. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs stressed the importance of respecting the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity and political independence as outlined in the United Nations Charter. Nepal also emphasized that disputes should be resolved peacefully through dialogue, diplomacy and mutual understanding. The government of Nepal has announced 3 measures for workers who passed the Employment Permit System or EPS exams for South Korea but have not yet secured jobs. The Ministry of Labour, Employment and Social Security will request the Korean government to extend the validity of the current EPS roster. It will also take diplomatic steps to increase the quota of Nepali workers and address the demands of those listed in the roster. Also, a task force will be formed to ensure transparency and fairness in sharing personal details of workers with Korean employers. The ministry has said these steps aim to provide opportunities for all qualified Nepali workers under EPS system. Now, internal tensions within Nepali Congress Party have escalated in fact ahead of a planned special convention by the disgruntled faction of the party's General Secretaries Gagan Kumar Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma that announced that the convention will be held in Kathmandu on January 10 to 11. Despite the party's establishment faction opposing the event, over 30 district chiefs have reportedly backed the special convention. Party leaders Gagan Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma confirmed the convention will proceed as planned, citing support from more than 54% of delegates. Meanwhile, the establishment faction has urged delegates not to attend any unofficial activities, stating such actions violate party rules.
विशेष महाधिवेशनको कारण कतै नेपाली कांग्रेस पार्टी विभाजित त हुँदैन। स्वदेश र विदेशबाट पार्टीका आदरणीय साथीहरूले चिन्ता व्यक्त गर्दै यो प्रश्न सोधिरहनु भएको छ। मैले स्पष्ट गर्दै आएको छु र अहिले पनि गर्न चाहन्छु, विशेष महाधिवेशन हुन्छ तर पार्टी विभाजन हुँदैन। यदि त्यस्तो हुन लागेमा हलबाट सबभन्दा पहिले विश्व प्रकाश शर्मा नै निक्लिनेछन्। त्यसबेला सबै सँगै निक्लिउँला, पार्टीको विभाजनलाई रोकौँला।
विशेष महाधिवेशन आवश्यक छैन भनेर हाम्रो पार्टीले निर्णय गरेको छ। त्यो निर्णयमा म पनि सहभागी छु। त्यसैले विशेष महाधिवेशन आवश्यक छैन भन्ने मान्यता राख्छु। तर पार्टीलाई फुटको डेलमा धकेल्नु हुँदैन भन्ने मान्यता पनि छ। त्यसैले जसरी हुन्छ सबै कसैलाई पनि मानमर्दन नहुने गरी सबैजना एकताबद्ध भएर बस्न सक्ने बाटो खोजी गर्नुपर्छ।
Preparations are underway at Bhrikuti Mandap in Kathmandu for the Nepali Congress Special Convention scheduled for January 11 and 12. The United States has withdrawn its membership from 66 international organizations, including 31 linked to UN and 35 other global bodies. According to U.S. officials, the move, signed into effect by President Donald Trump, was taken because these organizations allegedly acted against America's national interest, security, economic prosperity, and sovereignty. The organizations affected include those focused on climate change, immigration, labor rights, and good governance. Analysts say the withdrawal signals a declining U.S. influence in multilateral cooperation, leaving space for China and the European Union to take a leading role. Experts also warn that while short-term savings on membership fees and contributions may benefit American taxpayers, the long-term diplomatic and strategic costs could be significant. Moving on, the match schedule for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifiers set to be held in Nepal has been officially announced by the Cricket Association of Nepal. The group stage will begin on January 18, with all of Nepal's 4 matches played at Tribhuvan University Cricket Ground in Kirtipur. Nepal opens the tournament against Thailand, followed by matches against the Netherlands on January 22nd, Zimbabwe on 24th, and Scotland on the 26th. A total of 10 teams will participate, with the top 3 teams from each group advancing to the Super 6 stage. From the Super 6, the top 4 teams will earn a spot in next year's Women's T20 World Cup in England and Wales. Nepal's women cricketers will be aiming to make a strong impression on home soil in front of local fans. As Nepal heads toward the March 5 elections, massive security preparations are underway. 80,000 army personnel to be deployed and nearly 134,000 election police vacancies announced. A special coverage on it in our Issue of the Day segment right after this break. You're watching NTV World and this is News Hour. Welcome back. Nepali Army and Nepal Police have stepped up preparations ahead of the House of Representatives elections scheduled for March 5. According to Nepali Army spokesperson Brigadier General Rajaram Basnet, around 80,000 Army personnel will be mobilized under the government-endorsed Integrated Security Plan 2082 approved by the President. Deployment will begin a month before the polls and occur in 3 phases. The Army will primarily secure ballot paper printing, vital installations, airports and prisons, coordinating with Nepal Police and the Armed Police Force. During voting, the Army will operate in the 3rd security circle to ensure the safety of voters, candidates and election staff, and afterward will oversee transport of ballot boxes and security of vote counting centers. Nepal Police has opened applications for election police personnel. Police headquarters announced 133,980 vacancies, with applications to be submitted at the district police offices from January 9 to 15. Eligible Nepali citizens aged 18 to 54 who are literate, physically and mentally fit, and free from criminal or political affiliation can apply. Selected personnel will serve for 40 days with pay and food allowance according to government norms. Prime Minister Sushila Karki and CPN-UML Chair KP Sharma Oli held a discussion regarding the nearing House of Representatives elections. According to the Prime Minister's Secretariat, the one-on-one meeting at the Prime Minister's residence in Baluatar dwelt on successfully conducting the election. During the meeting, Prime Minister Karki noted that CPN-UML had submitted its closed list for proportional representation within the stipulated election schedule and had currently recommended the names of candidates for the direct election system. The Prime Minister urged for Oli's continued cooperation in the coming days to ensure successful polls. In response, Oli stated CPN-UML is not a party that engages in destruction and will not boycott the election, adding that the party has been making its own preparations for the polls. He also urged the government to create a conducive environment to conduct the election in a clean and fear-free manner. The Election Commission has sent letters to all 58 political parties that submitted closed lists for the proportional representation system of the House of Representatives, asking them to review and correct their submissions. The Commission took this step after finding that the list did not properly match the required names according to various groups or clusters which are mandated to make democracy inclusive, just and representative. A report by Sabika Shrestha and Saloja Dahal.
Nepal is holding the House of Representatives elections based on the proportional electoral system as enshrined in its constitution. This is the third time Nepal is adhering to the system. The provision was mainly to ensure democracy is inclusive, fair and representative. However, even major political parties do not appear to be well versed in the proportional electoral system. Before the submission of closed lists, the Election Commission had oriented the political parties in this regard. Despite this, citing that the prescribed procedures were not followed, the Commission has written to all 58 parties that submitted closed lists for review. Among the parties that submitted closed lists to the Commission, only 22 political parties included names covering the full 110 seats. According to the Proportional Representation Election Directive 2025, parties are required to submit a list containing a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 110 names. The Commission stated that it has sent letters even to parties that submitted lists as per the numerical requirement, asking them to correct issues where the list did not comply with the rules. Based on the population data of the 2021 National Census, proportional representation must reflect population-based inclusion. As per the Proportional Representation Election Directive 2025, submitting more than 10 candidates' representation must include indigenous nationalities, Adivasi Janajati 28.7%, Khas Arya 31.2%, Thadu 6.6%, Dalit 13.8%, Madhesi 15.4%, and Muslim 4.4%. In all these groups, 50% women representation is mandatory. Additionally, at least 4.4% representation must be ensured from backward regions. The directive further states that if there is any decimal point in calculation, one additional woman candidate must be added. As a result, out of 110 seats, at least 57 women candidates must be included mandatorily. The Election Commission stated that letters were sent because parties failed to separate and allocate candidates according to their specified groups. The Election Commission stated that letters were sent because parties failed to separate and allocate candidates according to these specified groups. Political parties have been given time, January 11, to submit their revised list. Sabika Shrestha and Saluza Dahal with camera person Ram Thapa reporting for NTV World.
And those were our stories in Issue of the Day segment. Now, in a major step to protect its cultural heritage, Nepal has signed a bilateral agreement with the US to prevent the illicit trafficking of priceless artifacts. That's after this short break in our cover story segment. Welcome back to News Hour here on NTV World. Now we look into our cover story of the day. Nepal and the US signed a landmark bilateral cultural property agreement to safeguard Nepal's rich cultural heritage and preventing the illicit trafficking of archaeological and ethnological artifacts. This comes as repatriation efforts have accelerated in recent years through collaboration with the US and European countries following international law and legal processes to ensure the return and protection and to protect, in fact, a range of Nepal artifacts. Pawana Casey brings more in this story.
Under this agreement, the United States will now restrict the importation into the United States of certain archaeological and ethnological material from Nepal unless accompanied by a valid export certificate issued by the government of Nepal. This agreement also disrupts illegal trafficking networks, protect American collectors and museums from purchasing looted objects, and cut off financial flows to terrorists and transnational criminals. U.S. Ambassador to Nepal Dinara Thompson said the agreement underscores the deep respect the United States holds for Nepal's cultural heritage, adding it reinforces a shared responsibility to protect Nepal's cultural heritage for future generations.
The United States is firmly committed to safeguarding cultural heritage from looting, pillaging, and illicit trafficking, and that commitment is implemented through U.S. law under the 1983 Convention on Cultural Property Implementation Act, which enables the United States to enter into bilateral cultural property agreements with trusted partners. With today's signing, Nepal joins 30 other countries worldwide that have such agreements with the United States.
Secretary at the Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Mukunda Prasad Nirula, said this partnership reflects the strong Nepal-US collaboration and commitment to prevent illicit trafficking of cultural property.
This MOU provides an enhanced legal and institutional framework for continued collaboration between Nepalese and US authorities, museums, academic institutions, law enforcement agencies, and cultural organizations. It will contribute to improved information sharing, preventing measures, capacity building, and public awareness to ensure that cultural property is protected for present and future generations.
The agreement covers archaeological material ranging in date from the Paleolithic period, approximately 32,000 BCE, through the 1770 CE, and ethnological material ranging from the 13th century through the 1950 CE, including religious architectural materials, religious and ceremonial objects, and manuscripts identified in designated lists to be published by the US government. Artifacts such as wood and stone carvings, architectural elements, and statues of gods and goddesses created in Nepal were widely smuggled or stolen and taken abroad, particularly during the 1970s through the 1990s. 198 archaeological artifacts stolen from Nepal have been returned from various countries, including the United States, as of December 2025, according to Nepal's Department of Archaeology. Director General at the Department of Archaeology, Saubhagya Pradhananga, said the agreement delivers important benefits to Nepal by curbing the loss of priceless heritage to the illicit market and promoting responsible stewardship of cultural property.
आजको MOU-ले हामीलाई चाहिँ यो सम्पदाहरू फिर्ता ल्याउनको लागि चाहिँ यसले महत्त्वपूर्ण भूमिका खेल्नेछ किनभने यो सम्पदा भनेको यसमा टेकेर यसमा विभिन्न किसिमका हामीले क्लजहरू राखेका छौं जसरी जति पनि हाम्रा संस्कृति सम्पदाहरू बाहिर गएका छन् किनभने हाम्रा धेरै संस्कृतिहरू सम्पदाहरू हामीले अहिले पनि फर्काउन सकेको अवस्था छैन जस्तै शिकागो म्युजियममा रहेको हाम्रो यो नेकलेस भयो प्रताप मल्लको नेकलेसहरू त्यस्तै अरु मूर्तिहरू पनि धेरै छन् अहिले पनि म्युजियमहरुमा छन् त्यो मूर्तिहरू र त्यो आर्ट अब्जेक्टहरू फिर्ता ल्याउनको लागि यो MOU-ले ठूलो सहयोग पुग्नेछ.
Some of these written artifacts, especially the idols of gods and goddesses, have been reinstated in their original locations.
The cultural property agreement reached between Nepal and the United States is believed to help protect Nepal's rich cultural heritage and prevent the illegal trade and trafficking of Nepal's artifacts, ensuring Nepal's cultural treasures remain preserved for the generations to come. With camera person Samir Thapa, this is Bhavana Kesi reporting for NTV World in Kathmandu.
And in this context, today in our Public Pulse segment, we asked about the significance of the Cultural Property Agreement. Here's what they had to say.
So as we have lost a lot of our gods and goddesses from this country, this agreement will play a very vital role to at least stop the further illicit trade that to happen in this country, and also like to shift the burden of proof towards the person who would be carrying these cultural properties from Nepal to the US border. So this is also a very good opportunity for the prosecutor to learn about the illicit trade, to strengthen what we have been saying as 1970 convention. And that is why like the basic foundation of this convention is like it would be in the further days, like it will be protecting our right to dignified life, which is guaranteed under the Article 16 of the Constitution of this country.
I think one of the biggest reasons to why this should help is most of the artifacts that have been returned to Nepal, they've been mostly through diplomatic channels. And this particular US and Nepal agreement makes the process much easier because we signed the agreement, one. And also the other part is the world knows that Nepal is also asking for our stolen gods back home. These are our living heritage. Because if a god is stolen from a temple, it's not just the statue that's been stolen, it's the living heritage, it's the rituals that's been taken away from a particular community. And bringing these gods back and reinstating to the community is the utmost priority, and to revive our heritage again.
The United States has always been very, very supportive of efforts to bring back stolen cultural heritage items that are found in American collections, museums and private collectors. And we've always been fortunate to find that attitude in the US Embassy in Kathmandu and in the State Department, and of course supportive embassies of Nepal in Washington DC and the Foreign Ministry in Nepal. However, this agreement that has been signed today actually supports and makes easier the efforts to bring back stolen cultural property that are from Nepal, that have been looted, and they find themselves in Western collections, American collections.
It's important for Nepalese people because it's not only the object, it's like a living object. We worship them, so this makes a really big difference for the community when it goes back to the community. And there are still so many pieces outside the country, so that will also encourage the people to give back, because I believe many people, the collector, they don't know they are stolen or how it disappeared. They just have come to know in the personal collection through some whatever mediator. And there are also some of the events like when people come to know it is stolen, it came back. And this kind of publicity or propaganda, it makes, I think, inform more people in a way. So I believe it's a very good thing for the country too.
This kind of agreement between the US and Nepal is very important and very crucial for Nepal, because though actually Nepal has ratified the UNESCO 1970 Convention on Illicit Trafficking, the convention itself only will not kind of bring back all the stolen or looted objects that are in around the world in various countries. And in the past we have seen that from US most number of looted stolen objects have come back. That's because Nepal has signed the 1970 Convention on Illicit Trafficking, but this kind of agreement with the US that will help support Nepal to bring back more objects from the US.
This kind of ceremony is actually a very much needed program in context of Nepal also, where our cultural heritage and those sort of things where arts and artifacts are not well preserved or well known, in that terms, it is very good shining ceremony.
And that was our cover story of the day. Moving on, for the first time in Nepal's Baket district, a citizenship certificate has been issued in the name of a mother. Chief District Officer Dilkumar Tamang conferred the certificate by descent to 24-year-old Mohan Godia, a resident of Nepalganj sub-metropolitan city 8 under the Second Amendment of the Citizenship Act 2063 BS and its subsequent rules. The certificate was issued in the name of Godia's 46-year-old mother, Maya Kumari Godia. Mohan said that after receiving his citizenship, he finally felt like a real citizen. He added that despite actively participating in national sports since the age of 17, he had missed many opportunities due to lack of citizenship certificate. U.S. Ambassador to Nepal Dean R. Thompson today paid a farewell visit to President Ramchandra Paudel. During the meeting held at the office of the President Sheetal Niwas, the two discussed about matters relating to Nepal-U.S. ties, mutual interests and concerns, according to the office of the President. Thompson had served as the U.S. Ambassador to Nepal since October 2022. Now, hundreds of kidney patients in Nepal's Butwal district have warned of street protests following a potential halt in dialysis services from January 15. Over 500 patients face life-threatening risks due to unpaid government funding. Hospital officials say delays in receiving the budget from the government have caused shortages in medicine and staff salaries, further threatening critical care. Rojina Rai with our local correspondent Keshav Bhandari explain more on this matter.
Butwal in southern Nepal faces kidney care crisis as dialysis services threaten shutdown. Following this, hundreds of kidney patients are raising urgent appeals to authorities as dialysis services face a potential shutdown, risking their lives. A total of 500 patients undergoing life-saving treatment have also warned they may stage protest, risking their own lives if services are halted.
अब मसँग त अहिले पैसा पनि छैन अब मैले अहिले दबाई इमर्जेन्सी चाहियो भन्नुहुन्छ भने मसँग दबाई किन्ने पैसा पनि छैन.
The crisis follows the announcement by Gautam Buddha Community Heart Hospital in Butwal to suspend the dialysis services starting mid-January. The hospital cites the non-receipt of the government grants as the primary reason for the impending shutdown. It has been stated that the government has failed to release nearly 180 million rupees, equivalent to $1.25 million intended for the treatment of underprivileged citizens. This development places hundreds of kidney patients at immediate risk, including those from Butwal, Lamahi, Palpa, Walling and Kapilvastu. Hospital official confirmed the severity of the situation, noting that while the hospital provided services worth over $1.25 million this year, but the government has released only $179,110. The funding shortfall has created serious challenges in purchasing essential medicines and paying staff salaries. Without timely government support, the hospital wants that treatment for underprivileged heart and kidney patients could come to a complete halt. Authorities are being urged to act swiftly as the lives of hundreds of vulnerable patients hang in the balance. Rosina Rai with the local correspondent Keshav Bhandari, Rupandehi, Nepal.
It is time now for international updates, but before that, let's have a quick look at our headlines this evening. Security agencies intensify preparations for elections, 80,000 army personnel to be deployed. Nepal urges restraint and peaceful dialogue, calls on all parties to respect Venezuela's sovereignty amid rising tensions. Nepal seeks the extension and quota increase for EPS workers to South Korea. Government forms task force to ensure transparency and fairness in employment process. Nepali Congress's dispute over special and regular conventions deepens. Disgruntled sides spearhead preparations for the special convention next week. U.S. pulls out from 66 international organizations, including UN-linked bodies. Decision affects groups working on climate and governance. And ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier fixtures announced. Nepal to play Thailand on January 18. Residents of Minneapolis gathered for a vigil near the site where a U.S. immigration officer killed a woman in her car. A U.S. immigration officer shot and killed an American woman on the streets of Minneapolis Wednesday, leading to huge protests and outrage from local leaders who rejected White House claims she was a domestic terrorist.
ICE agents repeatedly ordered her to get out of the car and to stop obstructing law enforcement, but she refused to obey their commands. She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
The woman, identified in local media as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, was hit at point-blank range as she apparently tried to drive away from agents who were crowding around her car, which they said was blocking their way. President Donald Trump's administration moved quickly to claim Good had been trying to kill the agents, an assertion Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey suggested as baseless and urged IC to get out of his city. Venezuela's interim leader Delcy Rodriguez has said U.S. military action that led to the ouster and the capture of former President Nicolas Maduro has left a deep strain on bilateral relations, even as Caracas moves to resume oil trade with Washington. Despite years of hostility and a U.S. oil embargo imposed in 2019, state oil company PDVSA confirmed it is negotiating crude sales to the U.S., which Washington says it will control indefinitely. Attention has shifted to Venezuela's vast oil reserves, the world's largest, as tankers load crude near Lake Maracaibo, though operations face uncertainty from sanctions enforcement and recent U.S. seizures of vessels linked to a so-called ghost fleet used to bypass restrictions. The U.S., once Venezuela's main oil buyer, says renewed engagement aims to ensure access for U.S. and Western companies, while analysts note the focus so far has been on energy rather than political reforms. Violent clashes erupted across several parts of Iran on Wednesday as anti-government protests driven by the country's economic crisis entered their 11th day. Videos shared by rights groups showed large crowds protesting in multiple cities, including Tehran's Shemiran district and Ali-Gurdaz in western Iran, with demonstrators chanting slogans against Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and calling for freedom. Meanwhile, Vice President Mohammad Zafar Ghampana said President Pezeshkian had ordered security forces not to take action against the protesters. Syrian forces are deployed amid fighting with Kurdish forces as night falls on Aleppo. Syria's government has demanded that Kurdish fighters leave the neighborhoods they control in the city, following clashes between the two sides, which have seen thousands of civilians flee. The violence comes as the two sides have so far failed to implement a march deal to merge the Kurds' semi-autonomous administration and military into Syria's new Islamist government. The Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force conducted its first training exercises of 2026 from January 4th to the 6th, involving units across all theater commands. The drills focus on improving tactical coordination and real combat readiness, including air combat confrontations, long-range precision strikes, maritime air support, low-altitude penetration, electromagnetic warfare, and search and rescue operations under extreme weather conditions. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said his country will hold a Royal Commission inquiry into the mass shooting that killed 15 people at Bondi Beach in December.
That I will be recommending to the Governor-General in an Executive Council meeting that will be held tomorrow that a Royal Commission on anti-Semitism and social cohesion be established. This was endorsed by a meeting of the Federal Cabinet today. I have asked that former High Court Justice, the Honourable Virginia Bell AC, to serve as the Commissioner.
A recent study shows that average Korean people will spend $170,000 on medical costs over their lifetime, with spending peaking at the age of 78. Bisheta Bhandari brings the story sent to us from KBS Korea.
Here, elderly citizens are gathered at a senior center in Seoul. As expected, their conversation centers mostly around health. The oldest member, a 102-year-old lady, appears quite healthy and lucid enough to communicate clearly. But she actually takes a lot of medicine.
골다공증도 한 20년 더 먹었을 거예요. 근데 병원에서도 1년에 한 번씩 조사한가 하대요. 이제 더 나섰나 안 나섰나.
뒤쪽이 아파갖고 주사를 맞으러 다니고 혈압이 높으니까 혈압약까지 주사약까지 한 20만 원 정도.
간에 돌이 있어가지고 그것도 꺼내고 하느라고 또 한 20일간 입원을 해 있었고 한 2천만 원 들어가고 그래.
A study by the Health Insurance Research Institute found that as of 2023, Koreans spend on average 246 million won, or nearly $170,000 per person, for medical services in their lifetime. The sum includes all medical expenses paid by an individual regardless of health insurance coverage. It was found that Koreans saw the highest medical expenditure at age 78, 7 years later than the age surveyed 19 years ago in 2004. The institute said that hospital charges jumped 51% every time Korea's life expectancy increased by 1 year, and they called for suitable countermeasures.
We'll go for a short break here. Business news coming up next. Stay with us.
China's central bank will maintain moderately loose social financing conditions and guide reasonable growth in total financial volume and balanced credit allocation in 2026 to boost high-quality economic development, said the bank's officials. The People's Bank of China, PBOC, on Tuesday said that it will continue to implement a moderately loose monetary policy in 2026, using tools such as reserve requirement ratio and interest rate cuts to maintain ample liquidity. The central bank will take high-quality economic development and a reasonable rebound in prices as key monetary policy objectives, it said in a statement released after its annual work conference, which outlined key tasks for this year. PBOC officials said that the central bank will take promoting stable economic growth and reasonable price recovery as important considerations in monetary policy, and will flexibly and efficiently use a variety of monetary policy tools such as reserve requirement ratio cuts and interest rate cuts to maintain ample liquidity. Leading Chinese artificial intelligence startup Zhipu AI soars as it goes public in Hong Kong a day before rival Minimax also makes its market debut. Shares in Zhipu AI, which runs the Z.AI tool, rallied as much as 11.8% in early trade after its oversubscribed initial public offering raised $558 million. This week's flotations come before any IPO announcements from top US startups OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, and Anthropic, known for its Claude chatbot. But analysts said profits were unlikely anytime soon from either company, the first two IPOs among China's so-called Six Tigers, generative AI providers competing with tech giants such as Alibaba and ByteDance. Zhipu AI was founded in 2019 and is a major provider of large language model LLM services to businesses and government clients in the world's second largest economy. Proceeds from the IPO will go towards developing general-purpose large AI models, including key algorithms and system infrastructure. Thailand's tourism industry saw a massive boost during the 2026 New Year countdown, as over 2 million international tourists and 10 million domestic travelers flocked to celebrations across the country. According to Nithi Siprai, Deputy Governor of the Tourism Authority of Thailand, the festivities generated more than 70 billion baht in circulation. This late surge pushed 2025's total arrivals to 32.9 million, surpassing the official target and bringing in 1.53 trillion baht in annual revenue. For 2026, the Tourism Authority of Thailand has set an ambitious goal to attract 36.7 million foreign visitors and generate a total tourism income of 2.78 trillion baht. French farmers rolled into Paris on tractors on Thursday in a show of dissent against an EU trade deal with South American bloc Mercosur they fear will create unfair competitions, as the government warned against illegal protest actions. Dozens of tractors arrived before dawn and cruised through Paris, with some reaching the Eiffel Tower and the others at the Arc de Triomphe. In a protest organized by the Rural Confederation Union, the deal would create the world's biggest free trade area and help the 27-nation EU to export more vehicles, machinery, wines and spirits to Latin America. But farmers fear being undercut by a flow of cheaper goods from agricultural giant Brazil and its neighbors. A government spokeswoman on Thursday, however, warned against such illegal actions, saying French authorities would not stand by.
Time now for sports update. World number one Aryna Sabalenka has accused tennis authorities of failing to put player welfare first over what she called an insane tennis season. Speaking at the year-opening Brisbane International, the Belarusian said she was prepared to be fined for missing mandatory tournaments in the months ahead.
The rules are quite tricky with mandatory events, but I'm still doing that. Like, I'm skipping a couple events in order to protect my body, because I struggled a lot last season, even though the results were really consistent. But some of the tournaments I were playing being completely sick, or I being really exhausted from overplaying. So this season we'll try to manage it a little bit better, even though if they're going to fine me by the end of the season.
The number of events in the tennis calendar has been a frequent complaint in recent months among the sport's biggest names. Men's world number one Carlos Alcaraz is another to have voiced concern about the amount of tennis he plays, although he has also signed up to feature in lucrative exhibition matches. He faces great rival Jannik Sinner in one such event on Saturday in South Korea, barely a week before the Australian Open. Now the weather updates from across Nepal first and then around the world. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. Security agencies intensify preparations for elections, 80,000 army personnel to be deployed. Nepal urges restraint and peaceful dialogue, calls on all parties to respect Venezuela's sovereignty amid rising tensions. Nepal seeks extension and quota increase for EPS workers to South Korea. Government forms task force to ensure transparency and fairness in employment process. Nepali Congress's dispute over special and regular conventions deepens. Disgruntled sides spearhead preparations for special convention next week. US pulls out from 66 international organizations, including UN-linked bodies. Decision affects groups working on climate and governance. And ICC Women's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier fixtures announced. Nepal to play Thailand on January 18. That's all for the moment here on NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media pages and also get the latest update from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Sarah Sapsanama Rai. Thanks for joining us. Good night.